that would be great, because we have some people that are waiting out in the hallway to come in for some other things. We don't want to crowd too many people in here. We still want to get as much social distancing as we can. It's all yours.
Yeah, they switched all the seats around.
And it's all Chuck's fault, I
Yeah,
guess.
Chuck took my seat. I'm sitting.
Danny blamed it on
I'm sitting
Chuck.
in Boo's seat.
That's true.
Chuck's, you're sitting in Chuck's in mine.
Topsy-turvy, I tell you.
One more thing to be blamed for.
Oh, wait, no, the evening's only starting.
You didn't know when you took that job. It's harder. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
There's some chairs back there, Chuck, if they want to. Some of that. Okay.
Not about this.
Oh, okay.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
I read all this. Andrew read it.
She's got one.
I don't know where you are in the process.
Why don't you bring me part or give me your number, I'll just enter in my phone and I'll call you.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Culver Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Ask that everybody please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have a few people calling in, listening in, and want to remind everybody that this is being taped. So we can review it at any point. Start with the call. Present. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the April 1st meeting.
I just
I'm
wanted
going
to make a point about that. I got Mr. McMahon. Yeah. Under the HEAL petition 2021-005B, Mr. Gilbert pointed out that I said the board had agreed, and he said you really should say we voted, agreed and voted, which was of course correct, and I changed that. And Mr. McManaway added that I had said they made the building more compliant. It didn't quite like the application. They just made it compliant. So that was changed as well. Under old business, when we were discussing the difference between petitions being tabled or withdrawn, Mr. Gilbert suggested, I think this verbiage is actually from the ordinance, but he added, the board president has the authority to request a petition to be tabled if the board additional information and or time to review the case. This authority should be done with approval of the board. If a table request is made and approved, there will be no fee to the petitioner. And I included that as well. So those are the changed minutes.
Okay, does everybody understand
Correct.
the new minutes? Okay,
And I'll make the motion.
okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and properly second. We approve these minutes. How do you vote on the motion? Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Ms. Marshall,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Approved 4-0. Sorry. I had the ones to sign and forgot I almost filed them all.
Mr. President,
Yes,
could I read two quick letters into the
yes.
record? They're from Mr. Easterday. Dear Mr. Adams, please accept this correspondence as our withdrawal on behalf of Will Wilson of the petition in local case number 2020018B for variance. After the last hearing, my clients have determined it appropriate to withdraw that petition at this time. Thank you for your courtesy and cooperation in this regard. If you further, please don't hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, James Easterday. And the second letter is regarding the green variance. Dear Mr. Adams, please accept this correspondence as our withdrawal on behalf of Diane Green of the petition in local case number 2021-004B for variance. After the last hearing, my clients have determined it appropriate to withdraw that petition at this time. Thank you for your courtesy and cooperation in this regard. If you need anything further, please don't hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Mr. James Easterday.
Thank you. And we'll put those on file. Okay, the first petition today is petition number 2021-008B. And Mr. Easterday.
Good evening, folks. I'm James Easterday for the record, and it looks like we're going to have a busy schedule, so I'm going to be very, very brief. And then if you have questions, we can deal with it predominantly that way, rather than me standing up here and talking forever. We believe that probably the only thing we're requesting a variance for is a side yard variance of on the east side yard for the construction of a new residence and attached garage. Now, if you look at either the GIS map or whatever, currently there are 3 structures on that property, and it's a house, and then there's a separate house or guest house or whatever you want to call it, and then a garage, detached garage. We're proposing to remove all of those structures and come back with just one structure. When I filed the petition, I said 0 front yard setback if needed. And the only reason I said that is because I didn't want to get into a technical review committee hearing sometime. And they say, wait a minute, it's a separate parcel, so therefore you got a 0. It's really one zoning lot. We have tons and tons of space in front of it. So I would like for you to determine that's not needed or to grant it if it is. Question? Looked like you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just asking him, I didn't have a copy of this.
Okay.
The line that runs through that property between the garage and the house, I mean, it sits on the same zoning lot.
Yes,
Is that a property line or what is that?
it's a parcel line. He owns 2 parcels there.
Okay,
He basically owns 2 parcels, but it's a parcel line. But it's all in common ownership. It's all used as one property.
Did I read someplace? I'm sorry.
well, I would just, in my mind, I mean, I'm thinking those would have to be combined as one lot with no property line through it.
Well, we have problems with that. We can't do that. And the reason we can't is because the one parcel is in the town of Culver and the other parcel is in the township. And in fact, we originally went with a building permit suggestion to the county, and we were actually going to have the house just a little bit further to the lake, closer to the lake, not a lot, but just a little bit. And the county auditor came back and said that the county assessor says that they don't want us to put this in 2 different taxing districts. And so we moved it back so it wouldn't be in the town taxing district so that they can assess the property all under one taxing district.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question.
That's gonna be a complicated.
I have this is Russ Mason. I have a comment on that. A long time ago, an agreement was made with Marshall County that whenever we had property that was in two different jurisdictions, whoever had the majority of the land in that area, it would be their taxing district. That was completed before I got off as planning commissioner. So you'd have to determine if I would say Culver, which is all the way around there, is the biggest portion. So the Marshall County needs to relinquish their pull on that, and they have to. And then I recommend that the lots be combined. So that's just information you guys should know about.
Okay, thank you, Russ.
And my response to that is the assessor has indicated to me that she's going to recommend to the auditor that they not accept any kind of building permit on this unless we stay in one district or the other. And so we're just doing that. We're staying in the district so that it'd be easier to get through.
Jim, do you need me to visit with them and explain to them what was done? And Ralph Booker's still around, so the two of us can explain to them that agreement was made several years ago.
I understand, but Ty is the plan director.
Okay. I
So
have,
that's why we're asking for what we're asking
Okay.
for.
Question. Does that parcel line also, does that continue behind the other houses there to the west?
Yes.
So all of yours are split into, all those others are split into township and. So technically, some of those are right on the line, it looks like.
Well, I think our property is the only one where the house is actually split. So the line runs in the middle of our two houses. And then as you go west, the houses are clear of that division. Some have their garage in the township, but the house is in the town.
But you're taxed two different ways.
Yes. And
Wow.
the line's not running through their structures.
2 pages before where you are there.
Can you hold on with just 1 second, Jim? Can I just ask your name and address, please?
Yes, I'm Mary Catherine McBride.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at 1059 West Shore.
Okay, thank you.
This is a GIS map, doesn't show all of them, but it shows several. And as you can see, that line goes right through the middle of a lot of those parts, a lot of those properties, I should say.
So I think that does bring up an interesting question. Do we have to, do we have to put that in that it's a zero setback because it's on that one lot? It's,
If it's on one lot, yes, it would have to be 0. I'm still under the contention that we have had an agreement, as Russ stated, and that we should stand our ground until that is upheld.
I was gonna bring that up too, and I do agree with Chuck and Russ on this right here. I mean, it is the fact that this was the agreement because in order to set the zoning up, but I'm not understanding at the same time, I mean, how far down West Shore is this? Because I mean, our zoning goes to 20th Road. It's pretty close to it.
Your zoning does, but the town of Culver doesn't.
No.
So the
It's
issue is
just-
whether or not it's in the town of Culver or whether it's not.
yeah, it's not zoning, what we're talking about here.
No, but I'm talking about as far as within our zoning boundaries, as far as anything gonna be built, it would be still under the Culver, it would be under the county.
Well, this is under this is under Culver. We're just trying to determine if they need a zero setback because part of it's in town and part of it's not in town.
You're still talking about the two extra tax bases as far as
The permit would be still through
zone.
the online permitting and to the town of Culver. So that doesn't change.
And in response to what he said, I quite respectfully disagree with him because page 241, definitions in your zoning ordinance says zoning lot, the definition of zoning lot. A tract or parcel of land designated by its owner developer as a tract to be used, developed, or built upon as a unit under single ownership or control. And so basically we have a situation where this is one zoning lot used by the owner for one purpose. So for that reason, we don't think there is a setback issue on the front yard setback, because we're using it as one zoning lot.
I disagree. That lot can be sold at any time and anybody else can move into it.
I would be happy to file an affidavit stating not sell it, we will use it as one lot.
That affidavit,
If that will make them feel better. I will tell you, this has been to court. It's been to court in Marshall County.
This is Russ again. I hate to disagree with you, Jim, but if it was one zoning lot, it would show that on the GIS, just like other one zoning lots show up on the GIS. If you don't believe me, you can look at the GIS and look at the house that's next door to mine. I think it's 529 Forest Place. You'll see that there's two lots and they're all one zoning lot. There are other places like that that are like that. That right now is not one zoning lot. I don't care what Jim says. Legal.
Well, if that's
But-
the
but-
case, then we're asking for zero setback on that lot.
Okay, and that's, and Mr. Mason, I appreciate your input and your previous knowledge on this, but I've also got to respect the fact that you're a member of the audience at this point too. Board members, do you have questions? And you want to continue with the zero setback? Is that okay?
However you see it, whether you see it not necessary or zero setback, we'd like to continue with that, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a reason you can't be more compliant on the, where you have the original tear down? Because you have so much space on the other side of the house where
Well, we have to do it to get in the garage.
Is there no way to take another maybe 5 feet out of that and
No.
center the house a little bit
According to the
more?
architect, no. He says there's American architectural standards as to making a corner turn. And then we also have a little hook there from the two parcels. And so we can't move over against the property line any quicker.
Right here, yeah.
I have a question, I guess, to other members of the board, but if this was allowed, anybody whatsoever considered it the same zoning. I know one part of it was the lot could be sold at any time, whatever, if they want to claim it's not being sold. But if they did divide it, leave it divided, even though it's zoned the same, what would keep them from building another residence on the other property? Nothing. I mean, you still have that. I mean, I know we can affidavit everything to death if we want to, but I just don't believe it. We would be at liberty to just open that up, even an affidavit. I know we have a, not to bring up old news, but property on East Shore where we wound up under a notary to say they're not going to use the two residences as two residences, but they wound up with two residents on there just because the notary says that they're not going to. And I know if they sold property, they broke it off and sold the other property, it would be compliance. But if they ever decided to sell it and somebody else uses those two residents on the same lot, there would be no way we could go back or even selling it until it was already sold. And I don't know where the notary would carry over to the next owner signed by the seller. So it creates more problems in the long run. I'm trying to avoid that.
I think the problem that the assessor has, the recorder, whoever, is problems that they have, and we shouldn't let those problems become our problems here. We need to take care of the town of Culver the way we feel necessary.
I think that's our obligation.
Yes.
We would propose a deed restriction. I don't think it's necessary. I think once you have one zoning lot, you couldn't build two residences on it. So we would propose a deed restriction as a condition for the granting the variance, that it can only be used with one residence on these parcels.
There was property that was, and I mean, I bring it up because this was past history too as well. But the Moors out there on West Shore, they had a house on the lake side of the road. And on the west side, they built a new home on the same zoning lot because it was zoned. This was a case where it was zoned different, but it was owned by the same lot and the house was built on it. So you've got the other side of the coin. It's still possible either way you go. And the only reason that was done because it was zoned different because one was L1, one was S1, but it was owned in the same taxable lot. So it's these situations that I don't want to be until we get something cleared up on this right here. I mean,
Well, I think, my question is why do we need to go to the east lot line? I noticed that the main cottage right now is 6 foot 6 inches and 8 foot, and 6 to the gutter and 8 foot to the foundation, which is exactly what you're asking for the new one.
Correct.
And I'm questioning why.
Because in order to get into the side entrance garage that's shown and attached, we're tearing down the old garage and putting a new garage attached to the house. In order to get into that, we have to have that space. And that's the reason we're asking for the 6 foot 6.
Is that a hardship?
We believe it is, based upon the characteristics of the law, based upon the,
Could the house be moved back 5 feet, give you a little more room? Could it be made a little bit smaller?
we don't believe that would work in this situation, based upon these lot dimensions and sizes.
Well, I don't see a house designed here. Is it all designed?
It's not totally.
I don't know why it couldn't meet the side yard setback myself.
Well, side yard setback is 15 feet.
Oh, it's 15 feet on that lot
15 feet.
rather than,
I don't see any way to work. It's 15 feet.
which again, it's different because it's in town or out of town.
The house.
Questions, Ms. Marshall?
Yeah, I'm just asking, is this a situation where you could table it so that we could get some more information and maybe Mr. Easterday could suggest, what a deed restriction would look like rather than trying to solve it right now? And let Mr. Easterday show us what that deed restriction might look like as a potential solution.
I would add more to the table.
What would, in addition, Gary, what were you saying?
Well,
For the same thing Chuck was talking about as far as the county assessors process and not being able to do what they're doing. And what we do is conflict or.
So, yeah, it's just be able to explore that, so
I'd
we
be-
understand what we're making a decision
Yeah,
about.
I'd be willing to explore that. I'd like to, I just don't want to get in a fight between the town of Culver and the county.
Yeah.
And
Again,
I'm a little frustrated. I realize we're on the record, but I'm a little frustrated that the county seems to be telling us what we have to do.
That's,
And,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's a good
why.
point.
Yeah, it is a good point. I don't know
And
why
so-
that they
but,
combine those.
Yeah, I'd be
Don't
willing
get it.
to,
Can't you combine?
you would like to see where we're going on the deed restriction. You'd like to see why it is that the county won't let us do what we want to do, which is build it right across the center, you know? And basically go that direction. I'd be willing to do that. We should table it.
Okay. And I guess I have the authority to table it.
Please vote on it.
Oh, that's right. So we need a motion
If we
that
need
we
a
table
motion,
it,
I'll move it.
that we
That
table it.
Table it with those things that we need to find out, yeah. Which I mean to be working with the.
Mr. McManaway
today.
moved that we table this. And Mr. Osborne seconded. Any discussion, further discussion on this? Okay, how do you vote on this variance? Mr. Osborne,
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Mr. McManaway, Ms.
Yes.
Marshall, and chair votes yes. Okay, we will table this.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. I'll get with your attorney and we'll talk about it.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is petition number 2021-009B. And that is Gilbert and Sarah Standley.
Mr. Stanley. Jan Hunter?
She went this morning,
Oh, really?
just minor. Oh,
That one?
yeah, that-
And Mr. Uber, right?
He's not here, right? That's been everything. Thank you.
I've never- Okay, hey, Gil. Sure.
He's got one.
Oh, you got one? It's not been revised.
This is the-
I think it's, oh, that's good.
Okay, this house is non-conforming
Yes,
to begin with,
to begin with.
and you're wanting to change the garage.
Yes. So, what I want to do, and I don't think I'm in violation of the side yard setback, but the rear yard, I would be.
But you already are.
Oh, yeah, yeah. If you look at the first page, it shows what the existing garage is. And then there's a wooden deck and a walkway. And the garage has come down, it's caved in. So because it never had a slope and roof leak for all the years I've owned it, unbeknownst to me when I bought it, but the whole west wall is rotted, so. It's my indoor water garden, we call it. So the garage has to come down, and then I'll take the wooden walkway out and extend the west line of the garage 3 feet. So it would be 16 feet from the property line versus the 14 that the walkway is right now. And then going to the north, adding 12 feet, which should take me 20 feet off of the north property line.
Sorry, could you say that again? Sorry. You said you were going out.
Oh, going north would be coming out 12 feet.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I'm actually moving the garage north by 4 feet because that way it lines up with the original line of the house. That's always been part of the problem. There was, when the house probably, it was built in 1876. So I'm guessing before there were indoor bathrooms, there was a porch where the bathroom is right now. And there's just that much of a slant And so when they built the Model T garage, attached it, you could sit as high as they could. They sort of had a flat roof. So I'm tearing that all out and lining it up with the house, the roof of the house. So it comes off this way so I can have the pitch I want. And that fills in like 4 feet of the deck.
So how tall will the structure be then? It would be the same height as the house?
Yeah, it would be, actually, it would be a little underneath what's there right now because I'm going to tuck it in. So there's no, like a barn effect.
Because it slopes down now,
Yeah, it's like,
and
it
it's gonna, so,
goes like this.
right, so
And
how,
it's flat.
how high would that back wall be higher than it is now?
Back wall.
Whatever. I
Or
would
the,
need for a
the wall
story.
to the wall to the east,
The west.
the west, yes, the west, excuse me, yes. The wall to the west and the height.
Probably another 8 feet. I mean, what, it's gonna dovetail into what's there now, the peak that's there now, underneath it.
Okay.
And it's not 35 feet tall now.
Right.
To see from the roof. Is this what you're saying?
No.
Oh, okay.
Is it, and the structure is 28 by 16? Because you have a
Right, that's the
460
one.
square feet, but,
Well, I was up above with this gorgeous.
oh, you're counting.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's like,
All right, 'cause I was wondering, where is this? Because it's like
No, yeah,
448.
that-
Okay.
that's why it says,
Yeah.
attic.
Yeah, gotcha.
I know exactly that. I have those.
Yeah, the district are on in yellow highlight.
Mr. President, on this variance request, I mean, since it's already non-conforming, would the only variance be because he is adding the square footage to the house as far as above the garage? I mean, as far as the setbacks,
Setbacks are fine.
they're fine. I mean, he's not increasing.
They have to come to us because they're making changes on a non-conforming house.
Yeah, that's why I put there.
It's a requirement.
That's why I went to-
Right, I'm just talking about as far as the setbacks. I'm talking about the variance just because of the height and because of the change to the structure itself. I mean, as far as his variance is requesting the setback, would that be required, being he's not increasing, he's decreasing parts of it, but not increasing? Just due to the structure change alone is what I'm saying for the variance.
Mhm. That's not a height thing. It's not anything
Not
closer
a
to,
height thing would be, but it would just be because he's going up and he's going out on a non-conforming.
and it is making the impervious.
A little higher.
Well, actually,
A little bit
I'm
lower.
going the
No,
other
it's
direction
not.
because I'm building over existing concrete
Right.
now.
Yeah. 'Cause
So I'm
he's
adding
already
about 60 feet the other way.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's only increasing by 100.
Try it again if you want.
increasing impervious.
No,
right,
Or
yeah,
decreasing impervious. It's already.
About 50 square feet maybe,
Right.
because I'm taking up that walkway and all that.
5 by 10.
Okay, anybody have any other further questions from the board? Ms.
I just
Marshall?
want to understand, so what do you think the variances are in this? It's not about the setbacks, it's just about the change in the structure?
Yes,
Okay.
because,
The lot's not conforming to begin with.
Right.
Yeah, it's not,
I
it's
just
never
wanna make
big enough
sure.
but
anyway.
he's not increasing non-conformity as part of the setbacks,
Correct.
Right.
but he is increasing on the non-conforming house.
Well, yeah, just adding, yeah.
He's just adding to it.
And it would be in conformity with what's in the area because both my neighbor's garages are parked down the property line.
Good
I know.
point there too. but
It only happens that way.
One property at a time though.
I know that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything to make anything about no land use.
Comments from, or questions from the audience? Okay. Move to finding of facts. I'm sorry. did
Chuck,
you-
you have any?
I didn't want to Chuck had anything to add to
Yeah.
that.
I think that Barry's got it accurate. We're not adding to the impervious surface. We're adding 168 square feet on to what's existing, so that's what requires the variance as well as the height. I think that's right. I think this is a good use. He's getting rid of the walkway and other things that he's got there. It's not any closer to the property line on that side. I think that would be approved on my.
So the description of the variance, do we want to include the new height of the structure? Or do you just want to say that it's, a variance for structural changes in an existing non-conforming?
That's what I would say his variance would be due to whatever page that's on as far as needing variance for that. No, I can look that up real quick here. Yeah, on page 8. Second paragraph, 050, says non-conforming structure may be enlarged or altered in a way which increases its non-conformity, but any structure or portion thereof may be altered to decrease its non-conformity, which would actually require variance. No such non-conforming uses shall be enlarged or increased or nor extended to occupy greater area of land than was occupied in effective date of this ordinance.
Okay, we are moving to finding of facts. Okay, is everybody ready? Based upon the evidence submitted, I find that number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Ms. Marshall,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Ms. Marshall,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Ms. Marshall,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. I would entertain a motion that we approve this variance.
I'll second. Or I need to.
You can't say it unless you make
You
it.
said it. You said I can make it.
There's your motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
I know. Aren't you supposed to ask Miss Marshall first, that she's a lady? She gets to go
I get
first.
so
She
tired
goes
of getting
first.
asked to be asked first all the time.
No.
It's nice to be last sometimes.
Watch when she starts moving around, then you ask.
That's
You know she's ready.
why we switched up the chair.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks.
been moved that we approve this variance, moved and seconded. How do you vote on the variance, Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Mr. McManaway?
Yes.
Ms. Marshall?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Approved 4-0.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
You can apply for your permit online.
Yeah.
Marshall County website.
Yeah, if I did it.
And if you got questions,
I will. Thank you. No doubt.
Okay, the next item or petition is petition number 2021-010B. This is Gary and Carolyn Craig. Mr. Craig, you want to address this for us? And
I beg your pardon?
would you like to address?
Yeah, sure. Do you mind if I take off the mask?
That's fine.
That's my wife Carolyn here. We're in this project together. We're trying to get the approval to put a fence up on our lake house that we're building. We started out with the project of two parcels. One is across the street and one's on the lake. We finished up the 3-car garage with the guest house across the street. And we left about 12,000 square feet of open space on that property. So that's kind of a good thing. And now we're finishing it. Well, we're getting close to finishing up the lake house, and we're trying to get ready to put a privacy fence in. And we're asking for a privacy fence for a few reasons. I was going to give you a copy of our site plan so you can maybe see it a little more clearly what we're dealing with. You want one? So as you can see, it's a very tight lot. We have 10 feet from the street to the edge of the house. And that's obviously very tight. You can see the covered patio on the right side of the picture. And then the play area for our little grandchildren is just this little white area right here in the end. So it's a very tight little spot for a little 4-year-old and 6-year-old grandkids to be able to play. Plus, a lot of you are probably familiar with the fact that that particular area that we live in has a lot of potholes in the street, a lot of them. And the water accumulates there in that area with the potholes. And so we end up with people who are driving very fast down that road. We all know they do that. The water goes flying up into the house. And it's dangerous for people to be driving with that kind of condition. So we think it's really important that we get a security fence in that, because once again, we're between 4 and 8 feet from people walking by and driving by, and we're wide open to viewing. And we just really think it's critical that we get a privacy fence there. We started out with a request for 7 feet, and we really kind of recalculated that. And we think it would be more appropriate if we had a 6 foot as opposed to 7. The house to the right of us has a 6 foot fence. And on the other end of our property is a 6 foot fence. And so we just feel it's more appropriate if we just continue with that size. I was going to show you here, it might be helpful, I'm not sure.
Can I just clarify one thing? I'm sorry, you're in the middle of it.
Okay.
In your variance, you asked for 7 foot fence on, you changed it, the whole thing to be 6. You changed that, okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give you a quick idea of what we're talking about. So here's the guest house, and here's the lake house. And so you can't see it, but all of this space down here is 12,000 feet of open space. Here's the guest house with the garage, and here's the lake house we're building. And then over here is the 12,000 square feet of open space.
Where the fence is just now.
This is my neighbors, this is my neighbors, and
I
so,
figured it's property on somehow.
yeah, this is the property line right over here. And my neighbor and I got together last night and we decided to put one more panel right here and another little bit of a panel here to help the privacy onto our property.
But you want the fence.
We want the fence along the street and on the sides. This side we're gonna leave it alone. We're gonna leave his fence here, and we're just gonna put the fence here on the north end where it butts up against the, this butts up against where the people park their cars.
So they've already got the fence there for the parking, whatever,
Yeah.
DNR or whatever.
You can get a better idea. Here's the guest house that we just finished up and we're living in that now. This is the lake house. And here's the little play area. And this is my neighbor's fence that we're gonna leave it.
What exactly does the fence ordinance say on that property? What's the page on
It's
that?
89 and 90.
So here's the guest house that we finished up. 12,000 square feet of open spaces over here. And this is the lake house.
This is your neighbor's fence, this is the fence you're
Yeah,
talking about?
we're gonna leave this fence there.
This is his highest point.
Yeah,
That's
it's,
it.
yeah. And he's gonna put another panel here to add to our privacy from his property.
So you're not gonna run the fence here, who's gonna?
Yeah, well, we agreed to, he's gonna do it, but I agreed to, with him, that would be
Okay,
appropriate.
so your fences would just go here
Yeah,
and
right.
there,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
I
across the
got that,
front.
Right.
And then down the side. And down here is where the public dining is.
Yeah, I know exactly, yeah.
He's putting it here. He's putting along the road.
I have a lot of other pictures here.
And on the north side, and not here, because the neighborhood has a fence there.
Yeah.
You know, because on the variance, it also says it's gonna be.
That picture of, or sorry, lakeside.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is one. That's the
See,
street
this
side.
looks, that's a street side, right? So I want to see this. I want to see this side.
Okay.
It was in the front, yeah, the first picture you had. It's your neighbor's fence. Yeah. Very good. There you go. That's right there. That's, yep.
Okay, according to this, I'm just, within the rear yard setback of the L1 Lake Residential District area, no fence shall exceed 5 feet in height and shall have a minimum of 50% of its surface open to permit visibility.
Yeah.
And so you're asking for a 6 foot
Yeah.
instead of 5, and you want it privacy, which means that you want 100%.
Yeah, privacy. And once again, the rationale behind it was what I've already kind of explained. The cars flying by and throwing water up on our house. And privacy, as people go by, they look right at.
I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I mean, not to be contradictory to the problem, but I mean, I've got the same problem in my house being close to the road, snowplows don't snow in my house. So I mean, I can't build a house. I can't put a fence block, especially in your case, as far as blocking a view of the lake when it's a road problem.
I didn't point out the fact that from the edge of our house, a quarter of a mile to the north is wide open water viewing. So anybody that wants to see the lake, they got a quarter of a mile of looking at the lake, and then they have our other parcel that they wouldn't see it.
I actually have a take on that issue. And I don't know how the neighbor got all the way down to the water, like, it's in Indiana, and I don't know this well. We do have an attorney sitting here who may know it better. But I think the state allows you to, go all the way to the water. I think you have to have a permit from, DNR.
IDNR, yeah, we're addressing, sure. IDNR.
Oh, we have DNR people
I
here.
believe it's within 5.
So many
Wait,
neighbors.
wait,
Just
hang
a second.
hang on one second.
I believe it's within 5 feet of the water. It's the farthest you can go.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Sally, I
I
didn't
think it
hear
was
you.
within 5 feet of the water's edge that you could go with the fence. I didn't think you could go all the way to the water's edge. Also.
Is that gonna be considered a structure?
Just a second, just a second.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I think also as a former emergency responder, it creates a very difficult situation. You can't expect responders to go out on the lake and go around your fence.
Responders,
Emergency responders.
emergency responders. I'm not sure I understand you. If we have a fence, people come through the fence, we don't have a fence blocking people from going into the water.
Let's address that in a minute here first. We're kind of jumping out of order here. Board members first, you have questions. Mr. Craig.
I don't know if leave gone first.
Go ahead.
Right, that was my question. I realized, Sally, you were thinking the same thing. That seemed strange to me, and I did research today, looking up, I'm not an expert on DNR requirements, but Sally is correct about where it requires you to stop, that you're not supposed to go all the way to the lake.
To the water.
Because people, it's a public lake and people are supposed to have access.
I don't think it would be closer than 5 feet from the water.
Go ahead.
So what they're referring to is the waters in the lake in Indiana are under the state's control as what's called the public trust doctrine. And the public trust doctrine is codified as part of the DNR's responsibilities to make sure that the public has access and visibility around the lake. And there is a section of code that covers the DNR that talks about walls and temporary structures that extend to the lake. And it's actually, I think, 10 feet that you have to get a permit from the DNR. And my opinion would be that a fence would be some sort of temporary structure or wall that would probably require a permit from the DNR to get it to extend all the way to the normal high water mark that you're looking to put the fence to.
The high water.
Yes. Yeah, and I think our ordinance even references maybe a normal high water mark as a setback in that.
I don't know what the high water mark would be.
Well, probably in your area, it's probably the seawall. In other areas, there's a normal high water mark is established by where the water normally flows to.
The high water mark is 735.48 feet for Lake Maxicott.
I think this might be something that even if you granted the variance, you couldn't get it unless you got the
DNR permit.
permit. And maybe some people have jumped that step and we haven't noticed it.
Yes.
As far as the road being in bad shape and water on the road and all of that, that belongs to Marshall County. I had a meeting with Marshall County. The plan is, they know there's water that stands along the edge close to the Craig's house or at the Craig's house. They plan on putting catch basins along there and then flowing that out into the lake. So that's going to take care of water problems. They're also, we are putting our new road in West Shore, and they plan on meeting that with new road also. So some of those issues will be corrected, but just so you guys all know what we've done so far, what I've done to get that for people.
Thank you.
I got a couple comments. I know, I went go by there a couple times today, and I noticed a lot of your neighbors have fences like
Yeah,
you're
they do.
proposing to the south.
Yeah.
Were those done recently,
No.
or do you know the?
No, they've, we just drove by before we came here, went around the lake, and we noticed a number of privacy fences, and a couple of them were new. My next door neighbor has been it for probably, I think, 20 years.
The white one.
Yeah, 6
Okay,
feet
the white-
high.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And
It
also,
goes down to the lake.
and also,
All of them do.
on the north side of your property, that fence, that wooden fence, that is the DNR's fence?
There's a DNR fence, and about 8 years ago, I had put a little bit of a fence there because there was a fence there, and for some reason, I think it got knocked down or something.
Yeah, I do remember.
And just to kind of button it up a little bit.
How far does that DNR fence go to the lake?
I don't really know.
No,
No,
it's just kind of right there. Is it?
It's right there at the
I think
parking.
Yeah,
It
it's kind of,
actually is a parking sign for
it's a
DNR.
parking. Yeah.
And another thing I noticed is that NIPSCO pole that's on the north part of your property.
Yeah.
It looks like that, your fence would enclose that, because those guide wires, those guides come down also, I noticed, and that looked like it would be a problem. And would NIPSCO let you enclose their pole?
Across the street
No, I'm talking on you,
on our property.
right, on the
Yeah, the
northwest
big,
corner.
the big pole with all the
Yes.
wires and everything. I've
Yes.
done everything possible to get them to do something.
But how would you put a,
Well, we had a fence here before we tore the house down. It was a fence, but it went just, the pole ended up on the outside of the,
it's on the outside?
yeah, it's on the outside of the fence.
So
So
just,
the new fence would be on the inside of that pole, just like the old fence was.
so like,
Well, you're permitted to have a fence. So we're not,
Yeah.
they can put a fence there and that's permitted. It's the height of the fence and the fact that it's solid. That's the question here.
Well, and in addition, the requirements of DNR, that's something that I think they'd almost have to do first.
You know, well, and I made a copy and it does say wall, like Jeanette was saying. Doesn't say fence.
Or temporary structure.
But ordinance say structure within the setback. I mean, now you're talking 25 feet. So under the ordinance, if it's 25 feet, it could be over 30 inches tall.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if Mr. Craig had not torn down his fence along the roadside,
Mhm.
that would still be allowed to be there. They tore it down for construction reasons. Now, in reinstalling it, they have to come back to get the variance.
Mhm.
So that's just a point that we might not be talking about this if they hadn't torn down the fence.
Just
Second
trying to
point-
beautify the community.
Second point is, if you have any specific questions, I would like to answer them, but I have known the Craigs for many years, done work. The next door neighbor, known them for many years and done work on their property, spent time there. So I would like to back myself out of this discussion unless you have something specific.
Okay.
Thank you.
what was the height of the previous fence that was there?
Looking on that picture, it's probably around 5.5
Yeah,
feet.
somewhere between 5 and 6 feet is what I,
We said
I just don't know why
was-
quit. It's changed his tune. I thought he supported the idea that this is the best thing we can do. And then he said that we shouldn't do this. So
Could somebody please mute their mic? We're getting people talking here.
Better than the potato chip.
We're thinking a lot about this whole project from the beginning. Is a lot of it has been focused on our grandchildren. That's why we built the guest house above the garage, and while we're building the lake house we've got bedrooms for them and the play area, and the critical thing from the very beginning, 6 years ago, was having a privacy fence. That was our initial thought, being that close to the road with little kids.
I know we've been discussing north end fence. How much more fence are we talking as far as you want it to go along the road as well?
Yeah,
All the way to the,
on the lakeside, it would be 126 feet of lake frontage. And then on the north side, it would go down however far we're allowed to go down, because we have all the traffic in the summer from the boaters. It becomes pretty chaotic there, and you get people roaming all over the place. So we'd get it down as far as we could, but we wouldn't go farther than.
And then what about the road?
On what?
Roadside all the way from that north corner,
Yeah, all
the way.
126 feet. And it would be down to my neighbor's 6-foot fence, and then straight down to the 6-foot fence on the other end of the property.
I mean,
But just,
I know, and I know what you're talking about as far as the view of the lake is up here, but I mean, we've got the same question could be asked some places where there's an empty lot on the lake on any part of the lake. I mean, you can argue that clear sight, but to me, you're still blocking, this is 20-something feet, is that what it says, from the play area to the property line? I mean, as far as in the play area,
say it again.
what's this dimension here from here to here?
Probably maybe 20 feet. I don't remember
I
exactly.
can't really read that small right, but yeah,
Yeah.
20-something feet though.
Maybe. It's not much, I can tell you that.
Because, I mean, in the ordinance, you couldn't put a fence that's 100% non-visible, privacy fence, either here or here. Anything that's parallel with the property is part of parallel with the lake.
Yeah, I'm just kind of following the rule of all my neighbors. They all have the
I know,
same-
I understand what your argument is on that, but I mean, just like when the ordinance was written, that fence next to your neighbor was probably already down through there.
You gotta remember,
Ordinance
what
is-
we're trying to do is follow this ordinance that we have.
Right,
You
that's
you
why
might
I'm
be
here.
trying to follow what your neighbors is doing.
No, I'm just trying.
We're
get
trying to
a-
follow what the
I'm just trying
ordinance
to get
says.
a zoning appeal.
Sure,
That's what I'm
Understand
trying to do. I know
Yeah.
the rules.
and it doesn't, but what I'm trying to say is, what your neighbor has, I don't know how they got it there.
Well, it's
But-
not all,
and
it's not
it's
just one
permanently
neighbor, it's
there.
most of them.
I'm sorry?
It's not just one neighbor, it's most of them in that area.
No,
And they may went
not,
down their neighbor.
not a solid fence. The only one I know is one right next to you. Because the
So-
next one's the one that they have just rebuilt,
You mean a
but there's no
privacy
fence at all. Right.
Yeah.
It's just to the first one to the south,
Yeah, that one, that's a brand new home.
but there's no fence there between the house and the road.
Yeah, all their area is behind the house. All their play area and living space is behind the house. They're right on the street, so there's no place to, they have a doorway they walk into, and then they go behind the house, between the house and the lake for their living space. It's just different, they're different parcels.
But
Ours
you're
just-
saying that there's fences all along there. The only fence I know of is directly to the south. There's one section.
Yeah, I didn't mean all of them. I meant.
But no, that was a comment you made. But there's
Okay,
several
I'll
fences.
withdraw that
And
comment.
I'm just telling you, there's only one place that there's fences. And it's a solid fence. And that doesn't mean that it's justified for you because he has it there. We're trying to follow the rules.
My main thing I'm trying to say here is this ordinance, as far as the 50%, is something that was moved a whole lot to what we were just talking about, the permits, as far as what you got to get the vehicle, put something there because it's protecting the public access, viewing, and everything, as far as that goes. Now, under this, we have the authorization to accept a privacy fence if we do not feel that that's gonna block that view from everything that was put in order already. So, I mean, this is where your variance come from as far as the greatest hardship that would be reasonable enough to see why you should have a privacy fence,
Yeah.
front and back.
I think one thing,
So wait, hang on one second. Can I just know who you are and where you live?
I'm
It's my
Carol.
wife, Carolyn.
Oh, sorry, never mind. I know who you are.
One thing I wish you would consider is that our property, the yard is not in the front of the house, like most yards are in front of the house by the lake. Ours is all to the side. So everything that we do in that yard is over here in this grassy area that's viewed by everybody. I was talking to Mark Moore the other day and he said, you know what, Carolyn, your yard is like a stage. It's just out there for everybody to see everything. And so that's one of the reasons. It's just a different property than most properties. And so we would like your consideration to have a privacy fence.
I don't get that there's any setback from that line. What did you say your setback was on the road side?
I beg your pardon?
Sorry, I'll put my hand in front of my mouth and a mask. What did you say your setback was from the road side? Where's the fence?
From the,
From the road side, not from the lake side, where you want to run that long piece of fence. Where's it going to run? Because your house, I'm just looking at it, your house looks like it's right up on the property line. So where's the fence going to go?
the house. Okay. Somehow or another, I also lost two of my little packets.
I think they're here.
Oh, you got them?
They were laying in a pile there, so I
Thank
don't
you.
know what they want there.
I like them. Thank you.
Let me see.
So like, yeah, here. So this is, you can see there. I gotta
Well, this is
find
the
that.
pole thing that you were asking about, Danny. So this is a pole.
Yeah, so the fence would go right behind this telephone pole, behind these wires like that. That's where the fence has always
What's
been.
this?
Looks like a piece of debris.
Oh, that's, I thought maybe it was like your porch. I was like, that's gonna, you're not gonna have any room at all.
My builder's a little messy.
So, okay. Big piece of debris.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can kind of see some of the water that lays around and creates a mess.
Yeah.
Yesterday, didn't you say a lady fell down right in your face on the street?
Yes, she did.
An older lady was walking by and fell right on her face, and Carolyn happened to be there. And she said, "You put her on so much." She's like, "Step in one of these damn potholes."
Did you want this back, Mr. Craig?
Water on the other side. It's everywhere. So yeah, the fence goes right. He wasn't doing it.
Is he doing on the lake?
That's where everybody gets to do this.
I'm sorry?
The lakeside has a fence?
No.
That's right.
He's asking for it.
No.
No, I don't think so. I think he's asking for the,
Dan,
no, you can't have a fence on the lakeside.
To me, that house, I don't even know if the fence would be on the property.
I think we're okay with
So-
the fence going,
The fence,
towards the lake
Have
almost.
this-
Well, on
this
the one
pole,
side,
these
the
wires,
neighbor
just
has the
right,
fence going to the
right.
lake, so
So
that's all right.
Right.
But the north side, we can
So,
go
Garrett.
as far as the DNR
There-
will allow. We
So
don't really-
this
that's not
fence is gonna
really
go
an
from the
issue.
north side and
It's the fence.
meet up and then go all along here to your neighbor.
to my neighbor, yeah.
And that's it. There's nothing over
Yeah,
here.
So there's where we're at right now, and the fence would, has in the past and would be behind this telephone, behind these wires, and just kind of beside the house. Okay.
Mr. Craig, I don't know if you want
Yeah,
that
oh,
back.
thank you. Thanks.
Okay, other questions? Comments or questions from the audience? Yes,
I still raise the same question, that any fence that's going to the water's edge creates a public safety issue.
Maybe you didn't hear what I said to me, but I just said, the fence on the north because of the willow tree that came in there and stuff like that. Even if it's so we would do whatever the DNR allows us and you all to allow us to put a fence at the north end of the.
I'm only going by this and I respect. what you're saying.
We need, you guys need to address the board. We're the ones having this hearing, not the two of you. You need to address us because we've got to make the decision. There's no decision coming on between you two.
Okay, I will still address the issue. According to the petition, a 7-foot fence, the fence will go to water's edge and will go out within 4 feet of the edge of the road. I contend that a fence that goes to the water's edge is a public safety problem.
And we'll withdraw that going to the water's edge. We don't need to go to the water's edge.
No.
Other comments or questions? Well, my true feeling is I don't feel that there's a need to grant this because you can have a fence there for privacy to protect your grandchildren. That's permissible. I don't think it needs to be a 6-foot privacy fence. I just feel that's unnecessary. I feel like I'm like Mr. McManaway was saying, it blocks the view of the lake. And if, and you were already saying, well, this person has a fence. Well, all of a sudden, everybody around the lake's going to want to have a
What I
fence
was really
for
saying was
privacy.
there's a quarter of a mile of water
Uh,
before you get to our little house.
But like I was saying, you said that several people have fences. Now, there's one person, but
Yes.
what I'm saying, as soon as we say yes to this, then we're gonna have somebody on the west side that says, I want a fence. And you're gonna have somebody on the east side that wants a fence. And that's what we're trying to stop with these ordinances. We would like to have views of the lake if we don't live on the lake. And it would be nice to have some views.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that there's a need for a 6-foot privacy fence. That's just my feeling. I'm not the board.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking for myself.
To add to that, not consideration of what you're looking for. I appreciate you coming and bringing this forward. When you compare the landing all down through there as far as being a view of the lake, it has nothing to do with your property. I don't want to sound awful about this, but we're looking at your property and what's allowed on that property. So you're wanting the variance as far as your property. And I can't use other properties as far as into what we look at on that. And that being said, I don't have a problem with the fence on the north side, as long as it didn't, as far as my personal thoughts, as far as it didn't go past your house, because then it's still back. I know it's not meeting a setback as far as what to go, but you're saying, the 4 feet or whatever, you're telling us 10 feet. But I think we're still within that 10 feet going to the house. But if it didn't go any further than the corner of the house. But you're putting the fence right on the road side if you come all the way down the front of the road.
It's not on the road.
It's further closer to the road than what the setbacks allow. That's just my thoughts.
I agree with you, Barry. And I also think that the opinion of the DNR is really paramount here in terms of, where they're gonna land and what kind of permit you would need from them to put a fence there. And I know you said we would draw going to the lake, but Jeanette's saying that's 10 feet away and we can't guess what they would do.
If we would even remotely grant this, it would still be a stipulation of the decision of the DNR.
Right.
You couldn't even move forward until after that came. So it wouldn't be any hindrance as far as making sure you got that from DNR before it even presented to the board.
Sure. Yeah.
As far as
Could you go to DNR first and
Yeah,
see where they're
I
at?
would
can
do
do
that
that.
and see where they're at.
Go to
And see-
DNR and
Go to DNR and then see where they're at. and
But-
see
but
what's
under this
permissible
present-
in their guidelines.
As far as, and that's between the DNR and them.
Right.
That's not, what we have to decide is, are we gonna permit a 6-foot fence instead of 5 foot? And are we gonna have a privacy and or 50% visibility?
I didn't show anybody the picture of this. It's my packet of information.
You keep laying down.
Is it laying on your seat?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, some of these papers. I never showed you the fence that we had kind of selected. It's one here in Culver. You probably know the guy that owns it. It's a 6-foot privacy fence.
And this is burn.
It's about 2 or 3 blocks west of downtown. There's a gentleman that lives there that I saw it and I really admired it. So I took a picture.
But I can't see through it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, but we're going to move ahead here. We are going to, we're going to move to finding of facts. Or you can withdraw this.
We have someone who wants to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Online.
Okay,
Stephanie Perrick.
who's that?
Stephanie Perrick.
Okay, Stephanie? Stephanie?
She muted.
She's unmuted.
Pardon me?
She's unmuted.
Is something not working right?
Just a second. Waiting for my next text. She might be muted on her computer. She's unmuted on ours, but she might be muted on her side. Karen just sent her a message.
Okay. The procedure we're going to go to, we will be moving to finding of facts. And if the board decision is that we will not pass this variance, and then you cannot come back for a like variance,
For what variance?
for a variance for this same thing for another year. Or you can withdraw the variance, you can, we cannot table it, we're not going to be tabling anymore. Which, if you withdraw it, then if you want to come back with something less later that you think would possibly pass, that's fine also.
I don't really understand exactly what wouldn't pass right now.
Well, I'm telling you what, how I'm letting you know that I will vote no
But I
on this
mean,
variance.
I don't understand what you would vote no based on.
On my interpretation of this is a necessary thing. We have 3 questions we have to ask. And if I say no on any of these, I have to vote no on the variance. The 3 questions that we answer. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in difficulties in the use of the property. I would have to vote no on number 3.
But what I was trying to identify was, so you said you didn't like the idea of a 6-foot fence.
I would have to vote no on number 3. That's
So
what I'm telling you.
what would be acceptable to you?
Meeting the ordinance,
And the ordinance is
5 foot with 50% visibility.
5 feet.
And you don't even have to ask for variance for that.
So if that were the case, then we could just walk away and put the fence up.
You can withdraw it and put your fence up as long as it's 5 foot and meet the requirements.
You still have to get a permit for the fence.
I have a permit. I signed up for a permit.
Okay, but it hasn't,
Been approved and approved. Who approves it?
goes through the county approval and through me.
So, that's your decision. And like I said, I'm only one vote. So you can withdraw it or we can bring it to finding facts. Did we get the person?
Yeah, we'll just come back another time.
So you're
Then you're withdrawing the,
withdrawing it?
okay. Okay, they're withdrawing petition number 2021-010B.
I keep laying it around everywhere.
You know what, that would have none.
Yeah, Gary, don't leave them here.
Don't leave them in your car when you get them.
Thank you folks for your time.
I appreciate it.
Very much.
Thank you.
Could I ask for just a small break?
Sure. Having just a small break for restroom use.
What's that Mountain Dew, Gary? Tickles your innards.
To PCA, marathon meeting.
I think a lot of people just kind of put fences up around here.
Well,
Madison's,
and a lot of people love to have privacy.
they decided that they were going to.
And I hope I wasn't butting in. I said, I hope I wasn't butting in. I basically
No,
thought that.
no,
I couldn't remember whether it was 5 or 10.
it was when I had to delay, it was when Bill stood up too, and all of a sudden it was getting to be.
Keep it rolling.
Well, have
I don't.
you dealt with Mr. Green? He's, and see, you probably weren't on the board when he was here.
No.
Yeah, next time.
Just, and because he wanted it, that's the reason. It's like, he said, what would be acceptable?
Dan, I still don't understand why on that first one, why won't the county let them combine those parts? It makes no sense whatsoever to me.
Because they don't want to have to figure two different bills, I guess, and two different things, which is crazy.
Well, they only have one thing to figure.
Exactly. That's, see, that, I agree. That doesn't make any sense.
Who makes that decision? That solves that whole problem.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I didn't like about that one was it was the same exact setback as the other house was.
They could move it back.
And like I said, in designing the thing, they designed it so it meets the setback. Anyway,
Ms. Sherman wants to make sure she gets her letter read into the record.
does she have it?
Well, on the first one that we heard, she's a adjoining neighbor there on West Shore.
Oh, to the one that,
Yeah, the one that was tabled. One that was,
yeah, we did table.
yes, the one that was tabled, yes.
We have a setback somewhere that we always use on the streets. The streets always 10 feet, whatever, we put a fence on.
Sorry, Dan, I took my fence page back.
Is that a road?
No, they can put it on their property line. It goes on, it can go on their property. But see, I don't know.
Using that concept of our property line.
Their house is the property.
Your railroad, property line in the center of the road. So, we need to establish that at some point. I mean, no, keep coming up with this, say you need to.
Well, it's a plan.
I know.
You're the man.
Yeah, I know.
You have the letter from Mrs. Sherman.
We just lost one good.
Check with her.
That is?
I don't know. She wanted to make sure, she just wanted to make sure it got read in the next time.
Next time.
The worst thing to do is have to.
Because it was with the first, it was with that first one.
I wish you guys would ask.
She's next door to the, next door to the people that, the first petition we looked at.
Well, we've got a seat open in the plan commission. He could just be appointed to that rather than being
I don't think I had it either. Chuck knows more about it. That's what she was asking, and I don't,
That position holds
and I
that.
don't know if she walked out with it. That's what she was asking.
Yeah, for him,
We need to get a copy.
Maybe she said.
Okay, we ready to convene again?
Yeah, we can.
Ready to convene again, please?
I hit it in my meeting and
Chuck, did Mrs. Sturman have a letter with her, or?
I don't have one. It's not about this, I know.
I'll have to check it actually.
Make
Thank
sure,
you,
because I was
everybody.
gonna ask her, but then she left, so.
Yeah.
I hit the gavel with the plan commission meeting and everybody got up and walked out.
That's right, yeah, we're out of here.
Okay, the last petition on our agenda is 2021-011B. And this is a petition filed by Greg and Alyssa Burns. Who would like to?
My name's Eric Larson. I'm with Larson Jolly Contracting, 308 College Avenue. So we are requesting an 8-inch variance for the property that we are building due to a mistake made in where we are measuring the height, the total height of the house from. We were under the assumption that we were measuring from the height of the top of the foundation to the tip of the house. Then when the BZA came out to measure, we were told that we're actually 8 inches below the top of the foundation for where they're going to measure. So our house is currently 8 inches off of the required 35-foot height amount.
President,
Yes.
if I could interject here, please. When we went out to measure the house, there was not a grade established. Okay, when I went back out later and established the grade, the house is now 1 foot 2.5 inches taller than 35 feet. It's 35.6, or it's 36 feet 2.5 inches. When they filed, because they had to meet the deadline for the filing to get in for this month, I told them to put in 8 inches and we would figure that out. Well, we figured out where the grade was and now it's 36 feet 2.5 inches.
14.5 inches.
That's correct.
So now we're talking about 36,
Feet 2.5 inches.
2.5 inches. So it says 36 feet, 8 inches, or 236. Okay. Exactly how do you determine the grade at that point? Just for my,
After the house is built, well, according to our ordinance, that's supposed to be done beforehand.
Okay.
That's part of the owner contractor obligation, but going out afterwards, measuring the corners, getting an average from
Okay.
there.
But that's flat ground.
It's,
Okay.
it's fairly flat, yes.
I guess that doesn't make sense to us that we would establish our own.
No, it's supposed to be established with me. Here's one of the problems we've got. This ordinance isn't for me, and I'm not the police. It's for you to follow the ordinance. Your responsibility to know what it is.
Okay. I guess then I also asked then why, when the foundation was in the ground and foundation inspection was done, why could a grade not have been set then?
Could have been. Did you call anyone out to do that with you?
Well, I would assume the inspector came out to inspect the foundation, they could have set grade.
The county does the inspection to make sure that you have your rebar in, your concrete and everything else. They check nothing as far as zoning at all. They have nothing to do with zoning. They
Okay.
only have a building inspector.
So essentially where we're at now with the 8 inch or what we're over now is that we run into a financial hardship of having to alter the roof. We have a truss build in the back, but on the front, it was engineered and custom built. We cannot just take that amount out of that. That would have to get torn down. It's not adjustable.
I don't understand why you would make the mistake and come before the Board of Zoning Appeals to correct that mistake. When, I mean, I've been in construction around here forever. And we have always had to make sure whatever your design was for that house, it was built according to the ordinances of the location the house is in.
Sure,
But you didn't, because you have to find grade to set your 35 feet. Now, you built that house, and the way I was understanding from Mr. Burns, he didn't have a print, he was going by other things. And it was either the past meeting or the one before that, was asked about the roof that you were putting on that, and you said it was a flat roof.
No, sir. I disagree. I've never said flat roof. If you look at everything we've submitted, it never has had a flat roof. And if you watch the recordings,
I never saw any submitting as far as pictures other than
the last meeting that we came to, I submitted drawings and
Right.
3D renderings, and none of those had a flat roof. I understand that it's, actually, Mr. Adams has them right in front of him.
Yeah.
So you can see there that there has never been a flat roof. It is actually exactly as rendered on what we submitted. I understand that it's not very steep, and what we have built is not very steep. But I promise you, if you watch those recordings, I've never said flat roof.
Gary, what you might be remembering from conversations, I was referring to the house as being flat. And what I was
No,
talking.
no, no, because
I
I
was
know
talking about they
that
had
the
new
house is
eaves.
already built and
Okay.
they didn't have the rafters because they were
We were waiting.
waiting on those.
Yeah.
Oh, that's-
And so we were wanting to know whether it was rafters or whatever, because we were trying to determine if you were gonna go with that height at that time. Because we could actually look at the house, get the measurement there, knowing what if you have a 412, 612, whatever, we would know how much higher that it's gonna be when you cut your rafters.
Right.
And that's the reason the question was asked, is how high would it, as far as your roof, are you putting a peak roof on it or whatever? I would like to see those recordings, listen to those recordings, the
I've
question that
watched
was
them.
asked
I
that.
watched them all this week.
You never said anything about flat roof.
Correct.
Well, I know there was somebody else sitting beside me and the question was asked, but
You asked about.
I won't worry
flat
about
porch
that
up
part of
front,
it,
And I
though.
said that the porch coming
Yeah.
out would be flat and open air,
but
but not anything about the roof.
well, I apologize.
No, it's all right. I
But-
get it. There was a lot on a lot of these agendas.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, it comes to the same thing that I'm talking about as far as, I mean, I work for Skyline Builders, I work for
Yeah.
AAA Construction out of Freeman. And anytime that we went in to build a new home, regardless, all these things were set before the first nail went into a board, before the concrete was even poured. I mean, all that was established because every place, whether it be Bremen, Warsaw, Rochester, or Culver, you know, you can't build if you got a 35-foot height requirement. your design and your blueprints all show, because it's gonna show you the height of each room, one floor to the next floor to the roof. I mean, and you have that, and you failed to do that.
Well, I guess part of the issue though is that what the interpretation of where the grade needed to be, because we had the assumption that we could bring the grade up to where we needed it to be, because the way that house is built, we all know that it's existing footprint, it's tight on the alley, it's tight on the neighbor to the south. So that foundation is as far down as we can get it. Now, we wanted to bring up grade to whisk any water away from that house. We even have it planned that drain tiles going on the south side of that house, so we don't take water, take it over to the neighbor's property. We take it in that tile, we take it out. So where we thought we would establish grade, that puts us, we're close to where we need to be at that 35-foot mark. But when we set the grade the day after the BZA came out to measure, that's when we found out, well, their interpretation of where grade needs to be is much lower than ours.
So I guess our overall argument is that the definition of grade, we misunderstood. And on watching even the last most recent meeting recorded of this, there was contention and misunderstanding within this group about where grade could set. There was a call in that said that it was from the front entry door, and that we'd have to look into that, and it's not clearly defined. So I guess our request is that we've all learned a lot through this process.
The BZA's job is not to determine where to set the grade. That's the building commissioner. That's their job to do. I don't need to know. I can ask how it's set. I don't need to know that.
Yes.
So
When it was
if
brought
I
up-
don't know, that's
It was
one
brought
thing.
up, if you remember too, if you're that it was actually directed to the building commissioner to read. It's how that grade was established, and that was for record.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, I didn't know.
I know. And
Mr. DeWitt, you had a comment?
Zoning ordinance, chapter 6, 280 talks about height restriction and establishing grade. 35-foot height restriction, it goes down to .2, where it talks about tear downs. Natural grade on properties with existing structure should be established as follows. Natural grade must be established prior to demolition of the existing structure. Failure to establish natural grade prior to demolition will require the natural grade to be established by the Plan Commission using methods described under number 5 below. And the Plan Commission shall use best judgment to determine the previous existing grade or natural grade shall be determined and described under chapter 1. So that's what I have done at this point under the direction of Plan Commission. I have established the natural grade after it was torn down. And now I am saying that it's 36 feet, 2.5 inches.
I think Jeanette has a point as well.
Well, just to go to the question of hardship on this issue, the question of hardship has to do with, you cannot have a hardship if the hardship is self-imposed. Why is your situation not a self-imposed situation?
so I'm the homeowner who contracted out to have a home built under 35 feet. So my hardship is that it is not under that, although that is what I contracted to be done. So my hardship is that not self-inflicted. Do you agree?
No.
Well, and I just got to make a statement here. We have been dealing with this house since October. Lots of misunderstandings, lots of being led wrong, however you want to look at it. You swear there's no intention of doing that. You would think that once, we reversed the variance. I mean, we went through a whole thing to get that taken off for the porch. And we felt we were completely misled. To go to and you're rebuilding on the original footprint, and you knew that the wrong permit was granted because the thing had changed, and it was, you're supposed to have a variance to even go height. And then when you go that height, you go to the maximum you could go. I think that's, a very poor taste for you to do that to everybody involved with this. And then to have to come back to get a variance after the thing has happened, it's like, come on, how much of this crap are we gonna take?
I understand that.
I mean, it's like we're beating our head against the wall.
I understand.
We say, okay, you got that permit, go for it, we're gonna let you do it, and then you go to the limit and beyond.
And we'd already designed all of this, so
But we didn't even see these plans. We didn't see these plans at all.
and the permit to build it wasn't through this group,
I know,
right?
that's
So
right.
when you asked for those plans, I provided them. As
Sure,
soon as you
I
asked them.
agree. I
So as soon as-
don't
was as
disagree.
compliant as
I
could
can't
be as soon as
read,
you
I can't read
requested.
the height.
No. But just the fact that you're even going to that limit and saying, well, we've got 35, so let's go.
And I
It,
get that
it
that's
shouldn't have, it should have been taken care of long before. And I don't care if it's the contractor or yourself, but I think this whole thing has been handled so poorly as far as with the BZA, the zoning board. I think it's been handled very, very poorly. And I think you've put us into some really bad positions here. Mr.
I
McAnaway?
didn't want to stop you, but I do have a question I want to ask earlier. You talk about as far as your plans, your height, and you figured it out, and when it was established and it was measured, was there a stop order on the roof?
When it was measured, no, we were told to
Or
continue.
what was told, I guess is what I want to
Yeah,
know, what you were told
so
at that time.
This is a,
I want,
we were told to continue working because Chuck understood that he didn't want to cause us any harm for not being able to seal up the house.
as far as working on the house.
Correct. So we wanted to make sure that it could be
I don't
dry
want to hear
inside
you say
so that
that.
we didn't end up with all that rain on the insulation that I had delivered, the doors that I had delivered, all of the rest of the stuff that I don't have anywhere else to put because it's a construction process. So we
Right.
appreciated being told to continue watertight
Right,
the house.
thank you. Now,
I
I
mean,
want to ask the building commissioner now, as far as what was said.
Here's what was said the day that we measured it. You can weather it in to protect what you've already done. Because at that time, the floors were soaking up water, the walls were soaking up water, and I said you could weather it in. Never once did I talk about putting a roof on. And actually, and this is correct, isn't it, Eric? That when the shingles were delivered, I said, don't put them on the roof. Didn't I say that? And then you went ahead and shingled it. Isn't that correct?
No, that is not correct. When I talked to you
Wait a
2
minute.
days, when they got
There's
delivered,
shingles on it.
you said, if you go ahead with putting that roof or those shingles on, that's on you. Not once did you say, do not put shingles on that roof.
That's the same
Not
thing.
once.
No,
That's the
That's
same
past
thing.
weathering in, Eric. That's why I came over and put a stop work order on the house, and it won't go forward until whatever this board decides.
And I just want to add, Chuck texted me because, I could walk over. And so I was there the day that Bob Porter came in, with the bucket truck to measure it. And I was standing right next to Chuck when the measurement was there. And he was told, oh, we have a bathtub we're getting delivered or whatever. And we want to do, he said, we could go ahead and weather it in. He said, but that's all you can do. And he said, if you continue, you do so at your own risk.
exactly.
Right, so your risk is your self-created hardship that you don't get a variance and you have to redo it.
Understood.
So if
So the
you
risk-
chose that, that's on
Yeah.
you, not a hardship.
I agree with you 100%, Lee. And so we're saying by putting the shingles on, if we have to redo it, the additional cost of the shingles, that is on us, right? That is,
Well, the additional cost of redoing the roof.
well, the
that
roof was
takes-
already on, just the shingles weren't.
No, the roof wasn't done. You had the trusses up. That was it.
The whole front was done and the sheeting was on.
Where the trusses were, I can show you the pictures. There wasn't sheeting on that day when I said weather it in. A tarp over the top would have weathered it in.
And I wish that we would have understood that that's what you meant.
And now, just going back and taking off, so that everybody knows, taking off 14 inches, 16 inches, or 2 feet, whatever it is,
They added.
there's going to have to be an engineer involved to tell us how that's going to be done. Because you can't just cut a truss and it'd be okay.
I don't think that cutting the truss is possible. I think that we already had the trusses up there and the only option was to redo the entire thing, new trusses, all of
Well-
it, from day one, from the very beginning.
It's gonna be by state code anyway, because you're gonna have to meet that, our structural inspection at any time on that anyway. I mean, we all know that that's the process you're gonna have to go through with it anyway, providing this is the way you have to go. I myself, I feel that if we were to allow this, I think it would be setting a precedence untolerable. I mean, we have had situations and, I mean, people have tried to push the pin. I mean, knowing and being conversation that you cannot have it over 35 feet. And it is still tried and it's still tried and still tried. And it's not going to stop if we continue on our side of it to allow this. And I mean, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying thing. I'm talking about whoever comes in here thinks that they can build 36 feet and get a variance when this height restriction is one of the most important things as far as the stellar, the comprehensive plan, everything that we've got in line for the town for future development. And especially when you're talking right there at the park where the lake view for people coming in and out of town could see. And I mean, I can't express enough. It's just, I don't know if there's a bone in my body that would bend enough for this. And that's just my opinion.
We do have several letters that were written. And we need to read those. And
I'm going to apologize to everybody. We have 8 letters. I'm a really fast reader, if you don't mind.
Is
You
one,
might not- I do have to, go ahead.
are all letters to us or is some up to the
Yeah,
council?
there were some that were sent to the town council and the town council forwarded them to us.
That's what I wanted. Thank you.
So the
The other ones that were sent to you.
Right, that's, yeah. So these aren't in any particular order. I just want you to know, just read what's here. Okay, so, attention Dan Adams, President Culver, BZA, construction at 311 State Street. Dear sir, have been coming to Culver / Lake Maxinkuckee since the 1960s. My parents bought the house at 422 Lakeview in the 1970s. In the 1980s, they bought their home on Lakeshore Drive. My brother and sister now own the home on Lakeview. After a near fatal aneurysm in 2018, I was able to realize my lifelong dream of retirement, albeit premature, and I now permanently reside at 511 East Lakeshore Drive. I've always loved the small town ease and charm of our lake, our town, and most especially our Lakeshore Drive neighborhood. The new construction at 311 State Street does not fit in with the traditional and historic buildings in our neighborhood. Also, the 3rd-story windows all around stare down into our yards and kitchens and other rooms, impinging upon our privacy. It is a behemoth and an eyesore. I recommend strongly that the BZA require that the 3rd floor be removed. It is my understanding that the owners have been less than forthcoming as to their intentions with the Planning Commission, the Town Council, and the BZA during every phase of this project. By my own observation, I have witnessed construction continue at an accelerated pace, even after the owners had been informed that there was a problem with maximum height limits. I've also observed that the structure does not resemble a single-family dwelling. I suggest the various boards and councils be prepared to shut down any unauthorized condos, apartments, etc. A thought should also be given to what impact a multi-use property would have on public parking on the west side of the park. The building codes exist for a reason and should be enforced. The regulations should be applied to and observed by all. Thank you for your time. Again, I urge the board to respect and maintain the beauty, charm, and integrity of our town and our neighborhood. Sincerely, Terrence J. Solon. So the next letter is Mr. Dan Adams, concerning property at 311 State Street. 1, realizing nothing can be done about the building as it sits abutting the alley, we are concerned the 3-story structure now being built will deprive us of our privacy in our kitchen and backyard, as the height of the structure will allow those on the 3rd floor to gaze directly down on us from the deck and from 14 of the 3rd floor windows. 2, if the height variance is granted, it will serve as an example to others to disregard the town's ordinances and build whatever they want, as the BZA will not make them restructure in order to make the building conform to those ordinances. 3, the town should create an ordinance that makes new construction conform to the height of neighborhood buildings, not a 3-story building in a 2-story neighborhood, thus protecting the integrity of those neighborhoods. Such designs would need to seek a height variance. 4, the house looks like a 3-level party house rental, as the decks would suggest, not a home to raise a family in, as was stated by the owner. 5, it is apparent this home does not fit in with the smaller family homes in our neighborhood. We hope the building inspector, plan commission, and BZA members will insist on a complete set of architectural plans before construction begins so that mistakes made with this application will not occur again. 6, the saddest part about this new house is that it has become an eyesore for anyone coming into town from the east passing our beautiful park. One no longer looks at our park, gorgeous lake, historic train station, nor lovely gazebo. What catches their eyes is the monstrosity of a house that destroys the tranquility of the neighborhood by its height, size, shape, and design on such a small lot. Thank you for giving this matter your attention. This is from Pat Chmielewski. Okay. To the Culver Council, my name is, so this is one that went to the council and was forwarded to us. My name is Tom Uhas. My wife Teresa and I live full-time at 430 State Street. I would like to present my concerns about the upcoming BZA appeal for the property at 311 State Street. This is the new house being built across from the basketball court at the park. The BZA will be presented a request for height variance. The current maximum height is 35 feet above original grade. This measurement is not from the top of the foundation or the floor of the first floor. I'm opposed to granting this variance on the grounds that it will set a precedent. Previous BZA had required a new home under construction on East Shore to have the roof trusses removed and redesigned to meet this height requirement. Allowing this variance to be approved, even if a fine is imposed, will allow future applicants to do whatever they want and ask forgiveness after the fact. The entire sequence of events for this house at 311 State Street has been unprofessionally managed by both the BZA and the building commissioner. These people are appointed or hired by you, the town council. This council has stated the need for better communication between boards and commissions as to a congruent mission. You are the elected officials of the citizens of this town. I know of at least 8 households in the immediate area of 311 State Street who are opposed to this request. The building commissioner has the authority to issue a stop work order until the proper variance is approved or denied. When it became apparent this was going to be a 3-story house, action should have been taken. The roof trusses laid on the ground in the snow for 3 weeks. A simple measurement of the current height plus the height of the trusses would have shown that the height was going to be exceeded. However, as you've seen, not only are the trusses set, the sheeting applied, but the roof is completely shingled. Jonathan Lice informed a concerned citizen that the quote plans showed a finished height of 34 feet 8 inches. This could have been easily verified prior to setting the trusses and completion of the roof. My final point is that the gold standard for issuing any variance must answer the following. What is the hardship? What is a hardship for a house that exceeds 35 feet? If the BZA grants this variance, the town of Culver should take out an ad in the Chicago Tribune and advertise, come to Culver, Indiana, you can build whatever you want. Respectfully submitted, Thomas E. Uhas. This is another letter to the Culver Town Council. The purpose of this letter is to express concerns about the property at 311 East State Street, Culver, Indiana. I bring this matter before you because the BZA has wavered in its enforcement of the town ordinances and their past variances regarding this property. The owners have now petitioned the BZA for another variance. Please reference petition number 2012-B-011 to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The owner now seems to think they may be in violation of the town height ordinance. However, in their petition, they do not know the height of their building since it references 2 different heights. In the meantime, work is continued. I find it odd that the building commissioner did not issue a stop work order. The town of Culver has a process in place to address such situations. Is this process flawed or has the BZA erred in their handling of this matter? It is important that the town of Culver be responsive to the needs of its citizens as long as they do not step outside the ordinances they have created. The town should not leave the public with the impression that it is acceptable to circumvent or ignore the processes that have been adopted. Sincerely, Robert C. Paul and Vicky Paul, 439 Lake Street. This letter is 2 pages long, so sorry. Oh, Lord. Okay. This was also to the town council. Dear board members, who would have imagined that Culver would have its own Trump Tower? As soon as you turn the corner at the root beer stand, there it is in plain sight, and it's larger than anything else you see. Unfortunately, it takes away the breadth and beauty away from our glorious park that we all frequent and love. When I first purchased the property and decided to make the physical change to my storage/garage structure, I had to get a variance. I was directed by Jonathan Lice to submit plans for review. The plans I submitted weren't up to speed and required an engineer to input certain architectural dimensions in the plans. I then resubmitted them and once approved, submitted them to the county. It was also suggested by Chuck DeWitt that I approach the neighborhood and garner their signature for my plans, which I did achieve and had them ready for review. It seemed a lot of fuss for a storage garage, but rules are rules, and I was determined to follow them without penalty. I attended the variance meeting in person, armed with large copies of my architectural drawings and the letter with signatures. After I presented my plans, Mr. DeWitt read the letter to the BZA and shared all the neighbors who signed off on the letter out loud. I saw the transparency and sharing information with board members and attendees. Loved the process. I followed the rules as I read them and as I was directed by Mr. Leist, Mr. DeWitt, and leadership of Marshall County, so I wouldn't have any problems. My variance was approved by the BZA that meeting. From my firsthand experience, that is a process that was shared both in writing and verbally, which I never strayed. Prior to my variance call-up, the couple from State Street around the corner of our family's home, 517 East Lakeshore Drive, had a variance issue and it was their turn to address it. Upon them getting called up, the young couple stood before the BZA with nothing in hand. They shared they wanted to extend the porch of the property they just bought, being Mrs. Brown's house. They shared they were going to college at New York University where they met and they wanted to come to Culver to buy a home and start a family in Culver. The board asked him what they studied and he shares he's in grad school for engineering. Immediately, Chuck offers the young man an internship to work for him. The board asked the couple what, why, and how the porch was going to look as the two danced through the questions without ever being asked to present engineered architectural drawings, letters of support from the neighborhood, a photo, or a hand drawing of their intention. Then a few days of the BZA meeting, Mrs. Brown's house is demolished, a big hole dug which wiped out the town-owned alleyway and our main access point to park our vehicles without any notices to anyone. This is totally absurd. It wasn't until I called Mr. Leist 3 weeks later that the hole was filled in for passage. I truly believe no one from the BZA or the town board bothered to go see what was happening to the property or asking where was Mrs. Brown's house. I attended the last BZA meeting where the parents of the couple were presenting to the BZA. The parents were seeking up to 5 or more variances to allow them to build a 3-story home on the existing footprint, and he wants to add an 18-foot by 30-foot garage behind the home. The man bought an incredibly small lot at 60 by 66 next to Culver's firehouse, and he doesn't need a variance to replace what's there, but he certainly cannot be allowed to expand the footprint in any manner via the BZA rules. The man doesn't have any hardships that would warrant a variance. He knew the lot was small already, and it would be impossible to expand any structure on it beyond a little house. Once he presented his case and the issue of the plans resurfaced, Mr. DeWitt shares with the man, quote, he will go over the plans with him later. I threw a red flag on that remark. Who's working for who here? First, it's an internship and now architectural design feedback. That's not Mr. DeWitt's place with his family. With this family, sorry. When someone buys a piece of property, they should be given the opportunity to develop it within the structure of the BZA rules. The rules are in place for everyone to follow and to prosper by. After learning of the new variance, the young State Street couple asked for, with the raising of the roof line to over 35 feet, and then seeing them hire a contractor to assist him with building out the roof line at a record pace at the higher than the allowed 35 feet without interference from the BZA blows my mind. At the very least, a work stoppage should have been employed by the BZA once the request was made. This couple showed a history of building out their house prior to variance meeting requests per each meeting. On every variance request, their story would evolve a bit with some other nonsensical challenge. This young couple played the BZA members. They learned of the underlying town interest to draw new young couples to the community and gave them the answers they were looking for. The BZA never held them accountable for any build-out matters on their property. The couple knows it, and he shared with me personally, casually, quote, if he knew it was going to be this easy to build here, he would ask for more than a porch. The only member of the BZA that has been more investigative with this couple and their parents that I've witnessed is Lee Marshall. Most of the members have been quick to approve measures with this young couple, and I'm concerned that the same considerations will be offered to parents. Our family has lost all confidence in most of the BZA members. It's time for change and to approve BZA members that can best represent Culver's development intentions without fear of community anarchy. I'm making myself available for a BZA position if needed. The members are approved by the town board, and it's time to put consistent leaders in place that commit to the rules as shared by everyone fairly. Cordially, Vernon Shimoleski. Okay. This was sent to us. Hi, Dan. Hope this finds you well. Thank you. Oh, this is kind of personal. All right. All right. I'm going to skip to the serious stuff. As a homeowner in Culver on West Terrace, I want to express my support for Greg and Alyssa Burns, who are building a new home on State Street. We are lucky to have such a kind young couple invest in our community and plan on making Culver their permanent home. I have known Alyssa's parents, Joe and Cindy Garnett, for many years. There are a few families who live their lives through kindness, like the Garnetts. Their daughter Alyssa and son-in-law Greg bought an old abandoned shack and built a beautiful home, which should make our small town proud. I understand there was a question relating to inches in the height of the new home. We want young families in Culver who will raise their children here and contribute significantly to the community. I spend a lot of time next door at the Moorers, Corinne's, Emily Ryman's sister, who are like my family. Greg and Alyssa have been very considerate to their neighbors. We would be lucky to have a new family like Greg and Alyssa be part of our town and lives.
What I do.
The world is clouded with major problems, tragedy, and challenges. I have faced serious health issues with sepsis and bone infections, leading to 9 surgeries in the past 15 months, including almost losing both my legs. Maybe it's because I see life through a different lens that I truly believe we should welcome the Burns with open arms. Have a great night. God bless Tony, and that's Tony Giraldi. He just has his academy address on here, but he lives on West Terrace. Just because I know Tony, I know where he lives. All right. This is from Ann and Bill Moorer to Dan Adams. Hello, Dan. My husband Bill and I are writing to express our support for Greg and Alyssa Burns, our new next door neighbors. We have so enjoyed getting to know them since they moved here in October. After having that house sit empty for 5 years, we are delighted to see their project progress. Icing on the cake is that they will be year-round residents / neighbors. If anyone is impacted by this home, it is us, and we are happy with the home and the way it looks. We cannot see causing financial damage to our neighbors and a local builder / his family over a matter of inches. In addition, forcing them to remove the roof would have a negative impact on us, as it would complicate and prolong the construction phase during the prime summer outdoor season. So we ask that this small request of a variance be granted, not only for the good of the Burns and their builder, but for our sake as well, so that we can enjoy this space with our neighbors as we head into these busy and festive summer months. This is from Ann Ryman Marr and Bill Marr at 307 State Street. Last one. This is also to Dan Adams. I write this letter to support Greg and Alyssa Burns' request for a variance from the BZA regarding the height of their new home construction at 311 North State Street, Culver, Indiana 46511. As the realtor that represented the buyers and the seller in the last 2 purchase / sale transactions of the home at 311 North State Street, Culver, I am familiar with the home and recent history. The previous buyer purchased the home in October 2018 and hired a local contractor to remodel the home. The previous buyer spent tens of thousands of dollars completely gutting the home. Parens, no kitchen, no bathrooms, no flooring, etc. The home sat on a foundation that had seen better days, and the home had seen many changes over the years that needed to be brought up to code. The Burns took a leap of faith during the pandemic of 2020 and purchased a derelict structure, Parens 311 North State Street, with a great location. They looked forward to making this their forever home and joining the friendly community of Culver. Building a new home is an arduous process fraught with complications, misunderstandings, and stress. A home is the single biggest investment that most people make. It is also an investment in the community. Please consider the following in making a decision for a variance. The Burns have taken a derelict structure and are turning it into a magnificent home in a very high-profile location that will forever frame a part of the downtown landscape. Their revitalization is a huge benefit to the town and makes for a picturesque, I think he means to say, background. Find Culver is marketing to attract educated young professionals that can work remotely to consider making Culver the primary home and raise a family here. Greg and Alyssa Burns are highly educated professionals with a strong desire to get involved in community services and charitable efforts. It is critically important that the town makes this process a welcoming experience, and we want others to follow the Burns lead. They may one day be town leaders sitting on the same boards that they come before to make their appeals, and they can use their experience to guide them. Greg Burns has experience in both real estate analysis and construction. He has made every effort to understand the ordinances, codes, expectations, etc., and he has done everything to the best of his ability to comply. If someone with Greg's aptitude, experience, and understanding cannot successfully navigate Culver's building process without negative ramifications from enforcements, then we should all be afraid, and the process should be thoroughly re-examined. The net profit margin on new home construction, according to a recent survey, is 5 to 8% and is much too low for my risk tolerance. A small builder may not want to work in Culver again if they lose money. This impacts all of us in Culver, and I, for one, can tell you that it is hard to find contractors in this area. I have personally spoken to contractors that refuse to build a Culver because they have either been negatively impacted by building restrictions or enforcements of ordinances that they felt could have been handled more equitable. At the end of the day, 8 inches is not going to have any material impact on the way the home looks or any negative impact to neighbors / others in the community. It could, however, financially devastate a young family, local builder, his business and family, as well as deter other young couples from wanting to move to Culver and builders being willing to work in Culver. It would be highly illogical to believe that anyone would go to as much effort and financial risk as the Burns have just to have a home that is 8 inches taller. As a realtor, landowner, and a full-time resident of Culver, I'm thankful of the difficult task the BZA does. The BZA keeps the town safe with enforcement of conformity to the town's ordinances, while understanding that we are a community of friends and neighbors, doing the best that we can to support each other. Please ask, is it safe? What is the overall impact? What are the consequences? Are you setting a good example for how the town welcomes new residents? Is Culver a good place to build a home? I hope that the BZA will find a resolution in favor of the requested variance and show the Burns that they made an excellent choice of moving to and investing in Culver. This is from Wade McGee, Collins and Company Realtors on Main Street, 232 Main Street in Culver.
Thank you, Ms. Hardo.
Could you repeat that?
I have to say, I did radio when I was in college, and I was the only newscaster who could do 6 minutes of news in 4.5 minutes.
I believe it.
Okay, any further questions or comments from the board?
I would like to say that I do appreciate the letters, and that's citizen input, and realizing that freedom of speech, and not to be taken completely what has happened. We all know that there's some discretions too. Some of the things were said, but I do appreciate you coming to Culver. We welcome every, especially as nice as you've been. I know the situation has not been of the best, but at the same time, some of the letters commented on what people would look at to come into Culver. And to me, and the builders on that too, I'll get to that too, but to me, if we hold to a height as far as holding to the comprehensive plan, I bring that up a lot because that is a future of Culver. And when we set that standard, people that come in know that there is a standard that's set that keeps everything even and everybody is treated the same. Same parity as far as that's even a word as far as property to property. You know, allowing you to do something that somebody else is not going to be allowed to do, to me, it throws a wedge. And then as far as the builders, I appreciate Eric Larson becoming a builder, what you've done before, you know. And as far as a lack of builders in this town is what was said, we have had an abundance. Culver is not a community that lacks construction. I mean, you can see the permits and who the contractors are. So we do attract a lot of differential families, work-related businesses and everything like that. And I think to do so, we need to hold that standard that we have tried to put into the ordinance. And the other thing is too, speaking for the BZA, we don't write those rules. We have a procedure to follow and certain procedures to meet in order to make decisions. But the rules are written by the Plan Commission, approved by the council, and it is public access at any time when you want to, whether you're a contractor, a homeowner that wants to build anything, or putting a garage in, extra on your house or whatever, a pool. It all has a process that's in writing that has public access. And other than that, I have nothing else to say.
And I don't want to comment on the letters. Just want to remind everybody that the only thing that the BZA has done with this was we granted a variance for a porch. And then we went through a process of reversing that, which was a long drawn out thing. We talked to the lawyer how we could reverse it. And we reversed that variance, took that variance away. And other than that, we have not granted any variance on this property whatsoever. Criticism of the Board of Zoning Appeals, I think, is very poor in this case because we haven't granted any variances on this. And that's plain and simple. This is the first variance that we're going to approve if we approve this. comments were made in some of those letters that were I think very unfounded, and were very critical of a volunteer group that comes in and trying to do the best that we can do. And our job is to try to enforce the zoning ordinance that the town has. We have not set them. We're trying to enforce them. And the best way to enforce them, we always say, the nice thing was if we didn't even have to have this group. My biggest problem, and like I said before, was the fact that this has been a problem since October. And pushing it to the limit pushed me to the limit. It's like, if I'm dealing with a situation that I know is touchy, why would I go to the maximum and make it even touchier? Even taking it to that limit and then going over 1.5 feet, to me is just, I feel bad. I really do, because I like you, and but it's not a matter of liking or not. It's following our job as a Board of Zoning Appeals. Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go
I
ahead.
understand that and I appreciate that. I think where I wasn't intending in any way to push the limit. We designed the house to be under 35 feet. And that design was set when we got our building permit approved. Before we even talked about a porch and all of that, we made financial decisions and implications. And that was all set before we knew that we were pushing any limits. We were building a house that we were, as surprised as you were, did not meet the height requirement. So I get it. I should have eaten the cost and changed the height to be less pushing the limit when this got controversial and upset people. I did not do that.
Mr. President, do you have anything from the audience?
Yeah. Comments from the audience? Yes.
My name is Wade McGee. I wrote one of the letters. The only thing I would say is that I've sat through all the meetings, and I think that you're right. I appreciate the work that all of you do. Okay. As a realtor, as a homeowner, as a landowner that hopes to maybe invite builders to come someday to do a big project. Okay, but my point is that some of the people brought up precedent. I've sat here and listened that on a fence next door does not set precedent. So all of you have revealed to me that you are not granting anything based on precedent in this town. Okay, so this will not, granting them a variance will not set precedent that everyone else can come in and walk all over Culver. Okay, which is not what we want. Okay, and that's all I want to say.
I'd like to say something. If any of you thought my letter was personally offensive, I apologize. It's not meant to be, but I listen to facts, chew on them, and if I see a reoccurrence of that, I'm thinking, what can we do about that, right? So right now, this house looks down into my parents who are elderly. They are uncomfortable to the max degree, and seeing this place go up the roof going up so quickly unnerved them to no end. I feel compelled to share my thoughts and help them, give them some comfort in some way, whether it's to write a letter, at least to share my their unhappiness, or to, I don't know. So I apologize if I offended you personally. I didn't mean to do that.
Other comments?
Could the
Yes.
speakers please identify themselves so we know who's talking?
Sure. The first one was Wade McGee from Collins Realty, and the second one was Vern Shimoleski. I'm never gonna get that right. Was it? Okay.
Gil Standley. I guess, part of living in a small town and dealing with small town government is sometimes people's feelings get hurt and sometimes people might get a little personal. That kind of comes with the territory of knowing each other so well sometimes. But the fact is, we have rules for a reason. And we have a variance process to help people out when they're under hardship. I think Mrs. Reese said it best at the beginning, when a hardship isn't something you create for yourself. Like in my case, I have a hardship because my lot was too small because they cut up part of it 100 years ago. There's nothing I can do about that. But you sort of created its own hardship for yourself, which in and of itself negates hardship. And so I think you kind of look at it in that scope too.
Other comments? Somebody online?
I don't know, I'm just asking.
Your hands are that good?
I can just see the board, I can't
I
see.
don't see any hands up.
I don't either.
Okay, nobody waving?
You be online, what? Okay,
Can I make one more point?
yes.
I guess one of the final details of this, even if it doesn't go through, is, they designed this house to have a lot of character to it, a lot of good looking character to the front of that house, especially on that third story. This doesn't go through, it all comes off, I get that, but you're really going to hinder the look of that house from there on out, because all that stuff's gone, can't be rebuilt. Because the third story is going to keep its same height, we just have to reduce the roof that's on top of it. And, there's a lot of people talking about, well, they're uncomfortable with people looking down on them. The height is built, we're tall on the roof, but the third story is still the third story. There's still going to be windows up there. That's not going to change. What essentially is going to change is the appearance of that house is going to change for the worse.
Why couldn't you just lower the walls a foot and then keep the trusses the same?
Well, if we have to get 14 inches, it's more than a foot. Our
Foot and
headers,
a half.
our headers aren't that
Whatever
big.
it is, if you're worried about the integrity of the look of the top of the house, then do that. You don't have to change your trusses that way.
Well, then we're tearing the third story off at that point.
Yes, you're right. You are. But at least you can keep your trusses.
So financially, is that a better move? May not be.
I don't know, that's something for you guys to figure out, if it goes to that. I'm just saying, I'm just making a suggestion.
To go along with what Danny said, and I looked at it before I came in today. I went back out to make sure that I could see. Your windows are tall. All your windows are, and that's a nice look. I like tall windows. They would have to do something with the windows on that third floor if they lower the walls. My thought was like yours, lower the wall and then vault the truss on the inside to get the volume back up.
Right.
And, you can talk to an engineer about that.
Is it worth discussing if we could pull the grade to where we were under the understanding it could be in the first place?
You can't move the
change
grade.
grade. That's the reason it's set the way it is, because you could have any builder come in and you could bring your foundation 4 feet off the ground, build your house 35 feet above that,
Got a mountain.
and then you can bulldoze dirt right back in and create a new grade. And that's the reason it's supposed to be established prior to anything done on the property. And that said, this is the reason for the zoning code at that time. So, you understand what I'm saying? This is the whole reason, because anybody can build whatever they want to as high as they want to, if they can build a mound to do it on, So that's the reason for that. Back, I don't know.
Oh,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Tommy Ross. This all comes down to grade. In order to get a building permit, does the grade not need to be established at the time of the issuance of the permit?
No, it does not.
It doesn't.
No.
Well, I think that's part of the fault, so that's something that somebody needs to look into. So that's where this is all coming from, is this whole grade issue. And obviously it was written, Eric's understanding it was from the foundation.
Right, but he didn't read it.
That too,
Okay.
Right.
that too.
Right.
But you still need to know what the original grade was, so that you're not going after the fact and guessing.
Right, but you're trying to put the burden on us. When the burden, if it's so be called a burden, it's on the builder and the homeowner.
Right.
Because the code is written for them to follow.
The burden is not on you, the burden is on whoever issues a building permit.
No, because the building itself, if it's drawn up as a 35-foot height and has to be from the grade that it's supposed to be according to what's written, and when he submits that plan, he doesn't have to put the grade on that proposal. He just has to know where it's at when he builds it. But as far as the house that he's proposing to get the permit on, he can build it according to that permit, no matter how high he puts it. But once it gets above that 35 foot, he just violated the ordinance, not the permit. See what I'm saying?
No.
The permit is not for, it's just what his plans are to build. And for whenever he changes the height to what that house is gonna be from that grade, it's not up to the building commissioner. It's him to catch it, I guess, so to speak. But we're not supposed to be the police. We just set the standards. But you gotta police yourself according to the codes. I mean, I don't have to tell you the speed limit in town is 20 miles an hour, or 55 miles an hour when you get out of town, because the sign's up to tell you that. And there's signs here that are written that tell you that. I mean, we can't have a policeman sitting at every corner just to make sure it's all done, and we're not the police. That book is written to look at as a builder, as a homeowner that's wanting to build. And when they submit that permit, it's up to him to come look at it when it's requested before that house is built. Not before the permit is issued. So
I still think you're hitting a moving target if the grade is changed during the construction process.
Right, it is. But
So
they created
so
their
we
moving
have to know
target.
the original.
But they created their own moving target.
I think Tom's point is, what if before Chuck came out, we pulled a bunch of dirt back? How are you gonna know where the grade, we didn't do that, obviously.
Mr. DeWitt read how the grade was going to be set earlier.
I don't.
It's in the ordinance. It's in the ordinance.
Yeah.
And it
It's
said,
the
go ahead and
original
read that
grade.
again, Mr. DeWitt.
It's the original grade of the original house. Read it again.
The natural grade must be established prior to demolition of the existing structure. Failure to establish natural grade prior to the demolition will require the natural grade to be established by the Plan Commission using the methods described under number 5 below. The Plan Commission shall use best judgment to determine the previous existing grade, or the natural grade shall be determined as described under number 1 for a vacant lot.
I think.
The primary way of testing grade is prior to demolition, and if that didn't happen, then you go to part B, correct?
Right, which I established it.
But part A wasn't done.
Yeah, part A, they didn't do part A.
I think that an argument can be made moving forward, irrelevant to our situation, but is it possible to change that rule so that the establishment of grade is required? So then we don't have to worry about wondering at the end. So if you're already there.
The rule
doing-
is.
It is required.
It is
It is.
there. That's what the whole point is.
Number 2, before that, tear downs, the natural grade on properties with existing structures shall be established as follows. And it says natural grade established prior to demolition.
In other words, if you read that.
Yeah.
And it was there to be read.
Yep.
And it is a condition of a contractor or the homeowner to do that. Or prior to building a home in Culver or within Culver zoning. And
Can I ask if you knew that a month ago,
Did I know?
that it had to be set, was required to be set,
Yes,
honestly?
yes.
And
But remember, the house came down before anything was said. After it's down,
We
it's
had a
already down.
permit approved, and I would have thought that that would have been something as a new person you would have helped advise on. And I get it, you don't have to. It doesn't, it feels like maybe,
The laws are
We're trying
for
to
you to
cover.
follow. There it is. I appreciate you and your wife, appreciate you coming. I think we've had a good relationship during this process.
I agree,
As I have with your builder, try to help where I can and see things.
I agree.
Even though I don't do the inspections anymore or that, I try to look out for the homeowner, the builder, as well as while I'm looking out for the town. And this, if you said it was gonna be less than 35 feet, it's gonna be 34.8. That's what we're looking at, and that's what we went and measured that day.
I understand.
And at that time,
Yeah, I'm not disputing that it's taller than 35.
Okay, other questions, comments before we move to finding of facts? Okay. Is everybody ready? Number one, the approval will not be injurious. I'm sorry, based upon the evidence submitted, I find that number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Ms. Marshall,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Mr. Osborne,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
No.
Ms. Marshall,
No.
and the chair votes no. Number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Mr. Osborne,
No.
Mr. McManaway,
No.
Ms. Marshall,
No.
and the chair votes no. I would entertain a motion that we not approve this variance.
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we not approve this variance. How do you vote on that?
No.
The variance is that we not approve
Oh,
it.
excuse me, yes.
Can we make that clear? to the
Yeah.
record?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Mr. McManaway,
Before I voted, should there be any conversation on this,
on the variance?
Yeah.
And
as far
Yeah.
as whether it should be withdrawn or voted for, if they want to vote for it?
doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't make any
It's
difference.
not approved, it's changed.
Well, usually once you vote on it, it's done. They can't withdraw it.
He's asking if we want to withdraw and come back next month.
I'm asking if,
He's trying to
I'm
give me a
asking the
lifeline.
chair if that's, should be proposed or not. Because
Uh,
once you vote on it,
you're right.
it won't come back for a year. So if
And-
it's,
and-
I'm just saying they should have had the opportunity to withdraw this variance.
You're right.
Sir, I appreciate that word.
Hmm.
We're not.
Yeah, we're not coming back with one.
Okay.
With that said, no. I mean, yes.
No, okay,
You
no,
started.
no, really, all of you, I need you to make the record clear.
Record clear that I am voting yes.
Against the variance.
The motion is
For
that
the
we not
motion.
approve the variance.
Motion, I'm voting yes, that should not be approved.
Okay, does everybody understand that?
I'm with you. Read the motion and then take the vote.
Right.
Okay.
Motion is,
Start with Dan to redo his.
Let's start it from the beginning here. And
the motion is, you made the motion.
I made
the
a
variance
motion that
is
the
not
variance
approved.
does not be approved.
And who was the second?
She was.
Okay, so moved.
Right? And now voting on that,
All in favor of?
Yes.
not approving the variance.
Yes.
Mr. Osborne voted yes. Mr.
Yes.
Manaway voted yes. Ms. Marshall votes yes,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
And I apologize.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well,
Mr. Burns,
But I do, great, I'm sorry.
I need to make sure that you have a notice of violation and stop work order issued to you properly in writing, so there's no ambiguity or question.
The understanding is that since it's declined, we have to work on it to change it, correct?
Right, but you need to be served with your notice. of
But is there still a
violation.
stop work order if we're changing it? How can we change it if we can't
The-
work?
You cannot, you're ordered to stop work and enter into an agreement with the building commissioner to fix it. If you do not submit a suitable,
Got it.
if
So
you
as
do
soon
not,
as we have the plan for the roof that's under 35, or, okay.
and a time frame and what you're going to do, if you do not submit that to us within 15 days, we can take you to litigation.
Understood. And that's, you're the contact for this?
Yes.
If there's any litigation involved?
Yes.
Understood.
Okay. I guess we're finished with that, and I'm sorry it ended this way, but,
unfortunately.
If I could offer some advice to you all to be careful about what you say to other people. I had several people in the area tell me that they were told from BZA members how excited, quotes, the BZA was to be able to stick it to us on this. So I would be very careful.
to do what?
All right, is there a member here that said anything like that?
I'm just telling you
What,
what I was
no,
told.
could,
and I'm
could
not-
you, could you repeat what you said? That's what I
I
didn't hear.
was told from people in the community that BZA members were excited specifically to be able to stick it to this variance.
I never
So
heard
I'm not
anybody say that.
accusing, I'm saying if that's being spread around, I wanted you to know so that it's not coming from other places. I appreciate you all being forward with me when you know people are saying bad things about me and I'm trying to do the same.
And I want you to know too, then on the same note, when you hear where people say that we did a lousy job following up on your home and all that stuff, that we're setting some kind of notion that we don't do our job.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can clarify that as well, because
I agree with
You know what I'm
what
saying?
Mr. Adams said. You all have done your job.
we have ultimately tried to do everything as strictly by looking at your side as well as other people.
Yeah.
And that's our job. And sometimes it doesn't taste well.
Yeah.
You know?
To the point against you all doing your job, you declined us on everything. I don't know what anyone could have against you for that.
I mean, I've tried
Not
to
trying
read
to
the
defend you,
ordinances
but
that back
I'm trying to
you.
defend you, right?
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I mean, I do appreciate it. You have come with a whole lot more transparency than when we started with.
I agree. I've been trying.
I'm not trying to lay down Donna by no means whatsoever. And I did make a comment that I was reluctant as well as, you know, want to come because to resolve it, but I never said I was excited to come stick a knife in anybody, or anything like
Yeah.
that. I don't like it. I don't like
Interpretation
this
from
part of
whoever
the job.
that person.
Yeah. Because I mean,
Mr.
I just
Burns, do you
want
want to put on the record who would say that?
You want me to?
Sorry. Yeah,
I'd prefer to talk to that person first and give them the opportunity to share it,
Okay.
because I offered that to Ms. Marshall. as
It
well.
is on
I was
record.
told that people were saying things against me. I offered, I said, please let me know and I'll reach out to them and talk to them. I'd like to reach out to 3 people
Yeah,
to
Okay.
give them the opportunity to do this.
it is on record though.
Yeah.
That he said that because it's being recorded.
Right, I just wanted to know if you wanted to give us the names, because
Oh,
I'd like to know if that practice was going on, so.
I agree.
yeah, yeah, me too. I mean, I'll tell you, you come talk to me anytime you
I
want
know,
to.
and that's what I loved about,
We want to make sure our adjudications are above board on.
And I will say that we have made some changes as far as what we ask, what we definitely going to ask to look at, and not make any assumptions.
I agree. I think we've learned, all of us, a lot through
Yep.
the last 6 months.
And then as you see, we've also changed some procedures as far as continuing the same thing month after month. And we're trying to take care of that too, because we have some that come back, like I said, month after month, and we're trying to take care of that. So anyway, we still aren't finished. We need to go on and finish our meeting here.
For the record though, I would like to make a statement. Every member on this BZA, I highly respect the stand they take. This is a volunteer. It's appointed. You have to meet the criteria, whoever's appointed. But these people are appointed and volunteer their time, their valuable time. Because sometimes sit here in a meeting for 3.5 hours to hear everybody's opinion of how it should or should not be. And we do listen.
I agree.
But I mean, it takes a fine dedication to somebody that cares enough about this town to do what we do. And Mr. Dan Adams is one of the finest examples I can say.
And it's a lot of time for you all to commit, so I thank you for doing that.
But I appreciate you bringing it to us and everything else. I really do. And I won't take any more of your time. But thank you.
Yeah, see you around town. Probably the last time in front of this.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Okay, old business. Anything old business we have to discuss? Yes.
I thought there was somebody here that.
You forgot about me already?
No.
No.
Is this open?
Hi, I'm Rob Schmidt. I was last in front of the BZA in August of 19. And you generously granted me a variance. I don't know if you shared all this information with them, but you generously granted me a variance for 2 posts on our lakeside home. I don't know if some of you remember. We own 1010 West Shore, or 1028 West Shore Drive, and the lot across the street. We subdivided the lot across the street, sold off deeded over from 1028 to 1010, 3 feet to make 1010 less non-conforming. So we are only non-conforming on one side, but it's greater than the 4.5 feet that was. So then we built the carriage house on the south side for the lot with 1010. And with COVID, the world coming to a stop, we exceeded our year limitation on the approval from the BZA for the 2 posts that were 15 and 20 feet off of the lake. The house, the physical house itself is 25, 10, 25, and 7.5. Again, 3 feet more than what it was previously. So I'm asking to renew or extend the previously granted variance.
Just to give you background, Mr. Schmidt asked me about that. We passed the time, only you could give him an extension. COVID could be a reason, whatever. And I told him that he would have to address the board, and it would be your decision whether to extend it. Never been here before, never done that, so I don't know.
We're talking 2.5 years.
It's a year and a half.
Year and a half.
We're talking about, there's
So last
Yellow
one,
house.
it's even a year and a half, right?
There's a yellow house there right now.
What's that?
There's a yellow house
Yeah,
there right
that's
now
the one we're gonna raise.
with a little building right behind it also, I think.
Well, there's a shed that Jennifer Foxworthy's taken, so that side of the house, the east side of the house will be conforming to the 10-foot.
So there's changes on the property prior, I mean, since this variance was allowed?
No.
You didn't have to, okay.
There's been no changes at all. I'm just asking for an extension of the previously granted variance so we can go ahead and raise the house as soon as, I put a copy of the temporary plans there, I put a copy of the past minutes from the BZA, I put a copy of the planning commission about how we subdivided everything and the whole process that we went through. And if you ever have to have a power pole moved by NIPSCO, that's near an act of God, plus getting the utilities to move them too. So, I mean, everything was delayed, and then obviously the world came to a stop a year ago, or 13 months ago. You know, we want to get started at the end of July, beginning of August, and I was hoping to get approval.
There's really no change at all, just what you originally asked for.
It's everything I originally asked for. There's been absolutely no physical changes to the existing house, to the plans, to the setbacks, to anything else that was previously approved by the board. So I appreciate you allowing me to present tonight, and hopefully we can get the extension so we can continue with our delayed plans, but our plans nonetheless. I think that, you know, the house we put up on the south side is representative of Culver. You know, we're not asking for 36 feet. We're not asking for anything. We're doing what we think is right for the community and for the lake.
This is well within your discretion here, so this is
So
just an
we just
extended
have to
plan.
We just have to make a motion to approve this, or do you?
Well,
Yeah,
my
we-
only
We
question,
gotta find out we can.
my only question is, this actually expired in August
Of
Last
2020.
year.
of 2020.
So there was no extension being able
So,
to
or
add.
can we extend it because it's already, that's my question.
You have to extend it before it ends.
Well, now this is not an issue I knew was coming up today. You have to pass me over your book. Is there do you have a section in this?
There's not.
Is there a section on this?
There's probably a section as far as how long that they have to do it.
Well, there probably is, but then
There's an ending to it, and usually by any ending as far as prior practice, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
There's a
know either.
rule on
I
this,
just,
But I know even with the PUD, you know, when we had extended the PUD for gas station around here.
Pass over the.
Well, that extension had ended.
Best.
And once that is ended, we can't extend it again because it's already ended. You can
Well-
have to unend it.
In
It's a city attorney.
in the world of law, if you ask for your extension of time before a deadline, it's for good cause. And if it's after the deadline, it's for extenuated circumstances. In the law world
Right.
of like federal court, but I'm not certain what your book says,
Right.
so.
I'm glad you brought that up. 'Cause I'm aware of that as well, but I
Yeah.
forgot about it. I don't work with it.
well, I
every
think
day.
COVID would be an extenuating circumstance.
COVID would be an example that could be looked at, yes.
You have to give me a minute.
Perhaps
Perhaps you want to go down the
break.
agenda and.
No.
Can we just come back? We'll do.
That's
we'll
fine.
do new business.
I got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly drink a lot of water due to leg cramps, just to let you know.
Did you ever open this, Chuck?
No.
Oh, Barry, there's one right here. Did you say?
No, he's going to get rid
He
of
needs
it.
to, he needs to get rid of it.
Due to drinking a lot of water because I got muscle cramps and stuff, but I'm just.
Go. I'm so sorry. I called attention to you. you said you're gonna take down that yellow house.
Uh-huh.
It's so funny because I remember this and every time I go past, I'm like, weren't they gonna take down that yellow house? And I forget about COVID. I totally forgot about it.
Well, I mean, it was, you know, when laborers are getting more than their salary for staying at home, the subcontractors had a lot of difficulties getting workers to come back. I mean, I think for the entire world, COVID's rewritten the entire playbook. I mean, there was, you know, I mean, my aunt's 96 and we tease her that this is almost her second pandemic, right?
Wasn't that weird? Almost like to the year to have a pandemic. I always thought that was interesting. First thing I did was start reading about the Spanish flu.
Right,
This happened.
right.
I thought
I
it was
mean,
weird. It was like 100 years.
you know, I mean, it's crazy. And, you know, then plus, you know, trying to make the necessary adjustments in your own life, in your own business. I mean, we own and operate our own business. And I mean, you know, it's been difficult, but positive because it's been a hell of a learning experience from an employer standpoint, because it rewrote every rule that there was.
Yeah, it is hard when you go through something really trying. If you survive, you know, it's really easy to see the lesson. If you don't survive, it's harder to see the lessons, but.
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it is, you know, fortunately, you know, we sold 1028 on February 28th of 20. So right before COVID got bad, but I mean, who knew that inventory around here would dry up, you know, around the lake? I mean, we didn't know. I mean, nobody knew anything, right?
Where did everyone go?
But, yeah, I guess there's still people online. We're on a break.
You're looking at page 171.
Yes. It's I'll never do that to you again. It's a bit ambiguous.
I won't forget it.
A special exception or variance has ceased to be authorized and is expired if an improvement location permit for the execution of the approval has not been obtained within 1 year. So you didn't get an improvement location permit.
I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, so that's step one. We need to know if you obtained your improvement location permit.
Yeah, I have a variant.
You have your variance, but did you get the improvement permit? If you had your improvement permit,
You mean like a site plan or development?
No, a permit issued from building commissioner.
Building permit.
yeah.
Oh, no, I don't have a building permit.
Never
Oh.
done.
I mean, but this was the discussed plan from the first time I've been in front of the planning commission to the BZA to
Right, so
multiple.
if you had your building permit, if you got the variance, got the building permit, and then you would have 2 years for completion and wouldn't need this, but if you don't get your building permit within 1 year, it reads that this ceases to be authorized and is expired. And I think it's a reapply situation.
Right, because he didn't move forward at all.
Right.
Well, yes, I understand the big picture,
Yeah.
but we were moving ahead very methodically with the plan presented in front of the board previously. I mean, the board knew that we planned on building the carriage house across the street, raising the yellow house at 1010. We did not apply for that permit because we were doing the permit process for the entire development, so to speak, from subdividing the property to getting the permit for the guest house to now, you know, after I had a conversation with Chuck a couple of weeks ago, I said, do we need to go back in front or, you know, because COVID's rewritten a lot of rules.
Right, I understand you, and absent you pointing to me a piece of Indiana code that says differently. Unfortunately, he hasn't got a building permit. He didn't apply.
Okay.
Is that correct?
I haven't,
Okay.
no,
I haven't applied for the building permit for the yellow house.
It seems to fall into an unfortunate area of that you have to reapply for the variance is what it, the way the ordinance is written, because you didn't apply for the permit for the home. The variance expires if an improvement location permit for execution of approval has not been obtained with 1 year.
But what was the actual variance that was
Granted?
granted?
It's attached.
It's right.
It's,
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I'm
Yeah.
trying to read this and all I'm seeing is actually
no, the variance, that, I mean, that's the cover letter for the history, but
Right.
the variance is attached.
I mean, this is a verbal supply,
Just hand it to him because I marked it.
but all I'm getting,
Right here.
Carry this from the notes, or sorry, minutes.
okay. Yeah, I had this right here, and that's what I was trying to get.
Just, I haven't marked the.
Because it says that it's just to grant a development standard variance from the required line of sight setback to allow the addition of a roof and 2 structural posts.
That's
To
correct.
create a covered deck over the footprint of an existing 12 by 18 deck in the front yard of L1 District Lake.
That's correct.
Now, is this for the yellow house you're talking about?
That's correct. Nothing's changed.
The yellow house is coming down.
But the yellow house is coming down,
Yes.
That's correct.
and you want to build back
That's correct.
on the existing footprint. There's no been a,
No.
there's no been other footprint. Or-
No, it's gonna be 25, the house, the foundation's gonna be 25 feet off of the lake, 25 feet off the road, 10 feet off of Foxworthy's property. And now the 7.5 feet off of our former home at 1028. Remember, I deeded that 3 feet over.
Right,
It was very well received. So we are making the property, or have made the property less non-conforming. I didn't, had no idea about the 2-year permit. I mean, the plan was clearly articulated in the several meetings that we were at.
I think it was,
Didn't you have all the architectural drawings when you?
They're attached to,
Oh,
did you give me
No.
that?
I mean, I got site plans, I got layovers where
Here you
the
go.
site plan is on top of the house. I have,
oh, yeah. Thanks.
and what we were dealing with the post and all was line of sight in the house.
all you're dealing with is 2 posts, very similar to the post that I have now at the guest house or carriage house, however you want to refer to it.
But, yeah, and what we're here, and I don't know that we want to revisit this, but it's, can we do it? And that's, because it said, and it does say here that, and it has expired. It's not a renewal if it's already expired.
Right, that's what Jeanette is saying. If he had obtained a building permit,
It rules read 2 years,
he
right?
would have had 2 years, but he didn't obtain a building permit. I sort of understand why you wouldn't if it was all
But-
postponed, but it would have been longer. But now it's expired, and what Jeanette is saying is she's reading the ordinance.
I understand that.
He needs to reapply.
I mean, had I known,
Yeah.
we could have done that, but I mean, COVID has presented us all unique opportunities through the entire life. I mean, we never presented that. There's no pandemic rule book in the state code or statutes or whatever. I mean, we've all been faced with many difficulties. I'm not the only one. And had I known that we should have applied for the permit, so we would have had 2 years, we could have did the development plan, but our focus again was clearly articulated with the planning commission, with the board of zoning appeals, that we were focused on building the carriage house and then raising the yellow house.
Unless you are hugely under enormous pressure to absolutely start this thing tomorrow. Today is the final day that you can apply. You can resubmit information to be on the May BZA hearing, which is May, it'll be May
20th, I believe.
So there you go, the 20th. And just come back and resubmit this and get your
And
approval.
we had talked about that, but
Oh.
because of the circumstances,
Maybe we could get around it, maybe.
If we could read it in your favor, I think we would, but it's
Or, yeah.
Well, I'm not asking you to change the interpretation.
Right.
I'm just saying that that was written pre-chaos.
Right.
And you're right,
Yeah.
there are a lot of emergency authority powers in place, but I don't think Culver's adopted any emergency power that lets it bypass its zoning code.
Well, and I've got to make a comment, and you have been working on the carriage house. If you hadn't been in town working on the carriage house, I could say, you know, if you couldn't be here, if you were someplace else and you're locked down because of COVID, I would understand it. But somebody has been here working on that, so I feel like we need to follow through with what the rule says. And it's like we were just saying,
I don't
you
think the
know,
rule
it's-
even looks at whether they were here for
No.
the carriage house or not.
well, if like I said, that I felt that he wasn't in the area to even come and get a permit because he was locked down someplace with it.
No, I
You know,
mean, we do,
But you have been working on part of it. To me, that you need to bring it back to us, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, all I'm getting at though, myself, I mean, I'm trying to find ways that it would work as well. But I'm still going back to the black and white, what I'm seeing in the variance, and it's still a request development standard variance from the required line of setback to allow for the addition of a roof, a two-structure post, and created covered deck over the footprint of an existing 12 by 8 building. And that was granted. And what's this got to do with tearing the yellow house down and rebuilding it? I'm not following.
Wasn't this the house? I thought this was the house.
Am I not reading something
Wasn't
right here?
Wasn't this the house you built?
no, that's the new house. That's the proposed design.
That's a proposed design. I mean, there was no variance other than to move the sign light part to
This,
put the roof on a deck. And I'm not-
no, is this, a very similar copy of that was attached to the last BZA that I presented.
Am I not finding the right papers here or?
No. Let me.
I mean,
Look,
if I'm
I,
right, I'm right. I don't know.
I had the entire site overlay plan attached. I mean, a lot of this is what I presented to Jonathan previously.
They're gonna look pretty much alike. Oh, okay.
Killing
I
a
see
bunch of
what-
trees.
I see that, but that's,
This was attached to the last one. So you got this, the house is there,
yeah.
and then the shaded area, and then the drive. The shaded area, then there's additional, maybe I gave you guys too much information, but
I know that has happened to us before.
I mean, again,
My cup's only so big.
right, here's the setbacks for the two posts that were
Right,
approved.
right.
So, I mean, it's a brand new house, and this was previously submitted in information on
Right, I know.
August
And
15th.
My
it's dealing with
variance.
the corner, that corner was involved in the line of sight as far as setback from the lake. And that's why it was, I'm trying to remember here, because
But this
Dan,
is
you
a-
were on
this
the
is a
board at that time, Dan?
Yeah, we both were.
Yeah, we both.
Oh, you both were.
Pat was on the board.
I
But,
think the
yeah,
only person that wasn't here is this young lady.
but I mean, I was just going by the reading of the
You.
petition that was
She's
applied.
not really here. She's a
No.
guest.
She's a guest?
The wording of the
They won't
petition.
bring it back
She's
off.
like-
She's a guest attorney.
Oh,
We're, what page?
I'm on page, that's, the petition was 2109-019.
So you're on the minutes?
Yeah.
And where it says the variance to request a development standard variance from the required line of sight setback
Right.
to allow for the addition of the roof and two structural posts to create covered deck over the footprint.
Yes, there's no variance here required asking for anything other than.
Well, no, it was the line of sight thing.
Right,
So we gave him that simply because it was just post there,
correct.
to put a roof over, yeah.
because it's got a deck above it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is in the planning commission meetings where we talked about deeding over the 3 feet from 1028 to make.
Yeah. I
Right,
remember.
and I know,
I mean,
I
not the planning
remember
commission, but I
both,
remember he came and told us.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
because I was in both meetings.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, I figured,
I remember.
but I mean, a lot's happened in the last 18
Oh,
months.
yeah, it has too, yeah. Yeah, I'm
Hard
just trying
part
to
is
be fair here.
that it probably would just would be more straightforward and simpler.
I think,
It just reflect like
I
today.
think it
You
would,
do it
I mean,
online, just come back in.
pretty well a copy of the first one, the only thing could change, obviously, if somebody's moved within 300 feet of you. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're asking for the same thing over again.
It is the exact same thing. I'm not changing a lick. I mean, you know, I had a discussion with Chuck, and Chuck recommended that I come, and Mr. Adams granted me time under the old business, so I appreciate the time. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I mean,
Yeah,
nothing's changed.
I would suggest this, instead of coming here and asking us to extend it, since we can't, why couldn't you proceed going to town council and showing exactly what you've got here and that it was approved, if that's what you want to do?
But
They don't approve. They don't.
They
Uh,
won't do anything with that.
yeah.
The most direct route right now is just reapply.
True
be
enough, I
back
mean,
here in May,
you're right, I'm just trying to,
you can move
And
forward.
just do it.
These guys are all nodding their head, yes. this is-
right, and I agree with that, I just didn't know, I mean, if you gotta wait 2 weeks rather than a month, you know.
If he,
That's why I was just looking at 2 weeks.
because
too much.
of the COVID and everything that's gone on in the world and in our country, I thought it was, to get him on this was the most direct.
It was worth a shot.
It was a
We all,
shot,
you know,
and
and
honestly,
now we
I
know
mean,
you can't.
I tried,
Anything's
but
worth a
but
shot.
we've gotta be,
Now we know.
politically correct, if nothing else.
I'm not, again, I would never ask you guys to break a rule or bend a rule or whatever. I'm just stating my case and following directions as, as their leadership has provided, especially with Chuck and formerly with Jonathan. And, I'm just trying to get started on a house and, if I need to come back in May, I need to come back in May.
Can you get online yet tonight and apply?
Sure.
Well,
Go home.
That's the right answer.
I'll do anything you guys need me to do.
well, if you can get it in, you know how you went last time and did it on.
Under the 15th date, is what would be required, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why if you start it today, if I have more information I want to get, or you don't get it attached, or I got to do something, if you can get the base part in today, it'll say the 15th.
But wouldn't, technically, I don't have it set up, because I know it's set by days. But since this is an early meeting for the month, and the next meeting is gonna be a little later, wouldn't you have an extra couple of days?
We don't say that. We don't say that.
I'm
It says-
asking you the question.
Yeah, no, it says it has to be by the the meeting prior. For that, today's date, whether it was
15th or 18th,
right, it has to be by today.
so it'd be the 18th.
So I have to go online and file under BZA application?
Yeah.
Do I reference anything else, or do you feel I need more information to submit at this point?
It's pretty much right here. If you just even reference the original,
Submittal because I originally, yeah,
number that you got, BZA,
Yeah, I think it's in the
You
reference there.
just attach this and,
Okay.
that would be everything.
I mean, as much information you want to
Yeah.
bring, it's always more.
Well, I
transparency.
want to make sure that I'm ready, willing, and able to give you the information that's required instead of.
I mean, I wouldn't hold it to the requirement. I'd bring whatever you thought would be helpful as well. I mean, I just feel that.
I think all the drawings are still the same. I mean,
the
none of that's.
drawings are
There's
the
nothing
same. I
that's
don't know that you need anything else. I mean, if you feel that you need something else, then bring it.
Well, I think working together and you give me feedback and me giving you feedback is the best way to do
It
things.
is.
So if you
Conversation
see
and-
something that you would like to see or present or have presented to you, then I would respectfully ask for that information.
And I respect for that. You've always been.
I try to follow the rules.
Well, as long as we have one more copy for JD, all we need really is that the request because we have the drawings.
Yeah.
There's no reason for you to we have one more member that's not here tonight.
Okay.
If you can get that, but I can keep, I mean, we all can keep these.
That's yours.
These drawings are gonna be the same.
That's fine. I
Um,
just want to make sure that I come in quick.
sure.
Make the request.
I just stuck everything in his way.
Right, yeah.
And there's no reason he can't go ahead and start tearing down the house, right?
No.
I mean, that's all,
That's demo.
That's
But
good.
I mean, usually with your permit to build a new house, it doesn't demo and everything go with the same permit, you guys have separate.
Demo is separate,
Okay, it used to be.
right,
Come on.
demo is separate than.
Okay.
The risk is that you guys are real jerks and don't approve the variance and he's torn down the house.
Have we
That's
proven
the
that?
risk.
Yeah.
She knows our true nature, so
Yeah.
she, sorry.
maybe. Maybe he
I
does
don't know if
that.
he's ready to tear down the house. I mean, I don't.
Just as a
Maybe.
possibility.
Maybe.
You were on plan commission one time. So you know how
Okay.
evil we are.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
see you in a
Thank
month.
you.
New business. Obviously, we just found some.
Yeah, I had my phone number. In case you get on, have trouble with it tonight.
Yes. No. Hang on, I'm not that fast. 574?
780-9416.
Okay, I'm just calling you so it keeps it in there. I can't remember that much.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good
If
evening.
you have
Thanks.
trouble tonight or anything else, call me.
I will.
All right,
Thank you.
welcome.
Any other new business coming up?
Wait, can
Go
we
ahead.
still stay on old business for 1 second? I was at I think I heard this at town, yeah, it was town council, because Jim Clevenger was giving an update that 415 is coming up for auction in June. Okay, just FYI, did you hear me?
415 State?
No,
No,
sorry, sorry,
Lakeshore.
but that Lakeshore, sorry.
Lakeshore.
City town.
Oh,
City Tower is coming up for
Okay.
auction again.
okay,
Anything under the sun.
Affecting, you know, that's,
yeah. How about college? Is that house looking up for sale too?
Not at the same time,
Okay,
but he's behind there in the tax payments too.
Or hand lane, you don't.
so what do we have coming up for next month? I know we have
We
the,
have 3 cases.
we have the State Street one.
Um,
you say 3?
Doesn't Jim have 2 coming up?
Yeah, he has 2 and there's one other one.
The one is,
Is that Cook property coming up? No?
I think that there was a discussion with Keith and Emily King and Jim out there. That's why it got a little noisy out there.
yeah. Well, it's a good point. I understand that, but I just don't understand the conversation going on in the crowd.
Well, it's hard. I think this setup is a little out of the
Right, but it's a.
ordinary, and people don't realize when they're talking in the hallway that it bounces, the sound bounces off.
Right, but at the same time, maybe sometimes you gotta stop and make people realize that
Yeah.
you're being recorded as a meeting and that we're running this meeting and it has to be held to a
Yep.
certain.
Exactly.
Looks like we will have 5. We had 1, since we've been here tonight, there was 1, and now Schmidt is going to be the next one. So Beachview Properties, that vacant lot area down at the West Shore, where West Shore and Main meets, you know, the 90-degree corner, high up dirt up there, and
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right there at the cemetery.
yes, just
Oh,
past the cemetery.
yeah.
They want to put up some storage / units there. It's going to be a big compound thing. So they are applying to the town right now to have that annexed in, because Unless it's annexed in, they couldn't do what they want to do.
I knew something was coming for a few years because they've been loading that dirt down there, filling up the spots and.
And so anyway, that's coming up for Beachview. Catherine Densmore, that's Easterday.
Where's that?
Wagner, Stephen, Densmore is 50 West Shore Drive.
Is that Bradford?
50?
Chadwick Shores, right there when you come around the curve. on the
Yeah.
hill? Okay. Where they took the tree out in the middle of the driveway.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's,
That one again?
Yeah, they came up before the plan commission. I didn't know if they've been here.
yeah, they haven't been here yet.
Oh, sorry.
Stephen Wagner,
I guess because that was my neighbor's house that she grew up in. That's why I was like,
Yeah.
I just knew about it. I guess I've been over there. That's why. Sorry, go ahead.
I put the electrical service
2520
years
East Shore
ago.
Lane. That's another Easterday.
What was that? I'm sorry.
2520 East Shore Lane, Wagner. Max's Playhouse. She wants to do some additions out there. And then Rob Schmidt. So that'll be our 5.
Pretty simple.
Well, these are simple than what we did tonight.
Yeah, that's what I said.
When you get emotion involved,
The emotion has to go. You know, you got to care about people at the same time.
new business, are we on to that yet?
Yes, that's what we were,
That was
yeah.
the old-
We have, and since we have a council member here.
Sally. Poor Sally, you're gonna regret staying, Sally.
We have 2 different zoning ordinances that are published right now that are both online. That was part of the problem there with the Burnses. Okay, so next month, I am bringing you a new book. Bring your old books with you. I'm bringing you a new book. I want the old pages, you get the new ones. We're removing one of those from our website. And then, so both, they'll be in 2 places, but they'll both be the same. And then all of you will have new books by at next month's meeting.
Okay, good.
What?
So,
I don't understand what's going on here.
New books, those guys.
Just want to make sure we're all on the
Everything's
same,
gonna be updated in the same, everybody.
make sure everybody's on the same page, including
the
the
problem,
website.
the problem was Jonathan, and I'm not throwing him under the bus. He updated a lot of changes and they went into effect November 19th of 20, but he didn't update the website. He didn't think of updating the website. So under Plan Commission, it's got the new ordinances. Under what's visible to everybody else, it's got the old.
That was the whole problem with these guys in the first
That
place.
was my problem with
That's how that
Burns,
happened.
how that
Yeah.
happened.
Okay,
Yeah,
We had
and
old books.
supposed to actually be that, but if you're looking online, you're reading a book, you think it's
Right.
legit.
Exactly.
Right,
And there's
so,
almost an implication that online would be more updated, you know?
Right,
so anyway,
that's my personal pet peeve.
right, so we're going to have everything updated. As both places on our website will be exactly the same. We'll keep them going forward together. Well, one can't change without the other, to be honest with you, once we do that, because they both have the same link.
Mhm.
And then you'll have yours, I'll get new ones for the Plan Commission and get everybody on the same page, so to speak.
No pun intended.
Yeah, none intended.
Katie, anything else? It's nice having you with us, Jeanette.
It's been
You're welcome
lovely.
anytime.
It's been just wonderful.
I apologize,
It's nice
to
having
the board for
blondes
not
in the
introducing you,
room.
but I knew everybody knew you, but at the same time, when we had roll call, you weren't even introduced to everybody.
that's true.
And I
We
feel
just
bad
said-
for that.
No,
because-
that's right. We just said it was, I said Miss
I know,
Cerisi.
I mean, that's what I say, everybody knows.
I
that.
know her too well.
And
That's
I had
that's
asked
the
you, I said,
problem.
who is she? But that was
Right,
the
yeah,
reason- But that was the reason I said that, though. because-
She was like a secret weapon. That we didn't want to tell
We
you.
should have asked on that.
Yeah.
Maybe we could ask our own council member that's here, if we could get Ms. Cerisi back.
I tell you what, I mean, we used to have town attorney at our plan commission meetings and the board of zoning appeal meeting. And I know it costs so much per hour, but I know we've had so many cases that we needed I guess I should
Planning
say.
commission is more limited in what they do. It's not as judicial as
No.
the BZA
But,
is.
but we did have until we got to the turn, because our ordinance is what opens up a lot of judicial openings.
Right, but we could get our attorney there when we're working on new ordinances and things like that and run it by them. But having them here just to keep you guys on track.
Right, and I understand, it seems like our
You're
protocol
welcome,
has
Dan.
changed over the years, because, just like, Ratcliffe's property out there, when they built the structures under a permit that was issued to build it. And they built it, but it was under the ordinances that a temporary structure could be built. And they built it out there with no
They put it
primary
on
structure,
skids.
because it had to be a
Yeah.
permanent structure. Do you remember that? What I'm
This
talking
is
about?
town of Culver v. Ratcliffe, and,
And it was members of the planning commission, and I'll say this out loud for a record, that I did not agree that if you could win this battle by trying to get them to tear them down. I said legally, in black and white, they have that right, because you have the zoning written to where it would be allowed. It was interpretation, and it was in black and white. And I said, once you bring it before a judge is looking for black and white, no personal effects whatsoever, black and white. And I believe it cost the town roughly $10,000 in legal fees and everything else to fight that. And they did not win. When I tried to tell the planning commission, you can't win this.
We
You've got
don't
black.
need an attorney, we just need Barry.
Well, no, it's a thing. You really didn't need an attorney, because it was in black and white. That was the whole thing. And then it was changed to where structures
means everything.
means everything.
Right.
Because before, a structure had to be something permanent put in the ground. And I remember last Bobby Monroe, I love her so much, Bobby Monroe.
Yes.
And I mean, she was so passive about making sure it's a permanent structure, because it's the right way to go. And Russ Mason was another good advocate for it. But I said, you can't be so solid with a solid structure, because there's so many other things that you would try and pinpoint a structure on, that you would be fighting for a variance just to put a flagpole up on your property, things like that. But then it was changed to the structure. Now you got the same process going on the other side, where people saying, what's a structure, sidewalk, and all that stuff.
Could I do something strange? Make a motion to adjourn.
No, you can't. but
No,
somebody
no more
can.
new
No,
business.
you cannot.
This meeting's adjourned.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Just a short story.
I thought we were gonna be here
Only
longer.
9:45.
Hey, Dan, you remember when they first